Awesome, awesome. So glad to have you all with us. I'm so glad to have you all with us. You put my PowerPoint up. We have been away for quite a while, and now we are coming back, and we truly are better together. We were better together last year, but it was quite different. This year, we are doing an amazing thing. As you can see, those of you that are here and those that are present with us online, we have quite a setup here. We are doing a hybrid meeting. We have people that attend with us online, and we're going to have this every meeting throughout the rest of this year, as well as in person. So as you feel comfortable, you can come and join us in person, and if you're away, you can join with us online. We have an amazing crew that was here yesterday. Oh my gosh. We have our past president, James Henderson, who was part of the coordinator to get all these people in line, and he ordered all the equipment because we didn't have some of it. So we got all the equipment here. Then we have Dave Bricker, who is part of the mastermind behind all the technology. And on the table over here, behind all the crew, we have Jeremy. He is a new member of FSA, and what a whiz he is at getting all of this together. So we could not have done this without our amazing crew. So I'm so glad to be a part of it, and they were willing to step up and help make certain that we are all here amazing together. So I want to take a few moments here. We all know that today is September the 11th. And 20 years ago, we had some amazing, striking, unfortunate things happen. And I want to take just a few moments to remember those who were lost, to honor those first responders who served, and to pay respect to the families that were actually involved in everything. So if we can just take a few moments to pause. Thank you. Here we go. We're always going to come with each meeting a little bit of just our highlights versions of NSA, our National Association. So we have Jamie Nolan as our interim CEO and transition director. For those of you who were with us before, Mary Lou Peck resigned her position as president back in August. So when you see Jamie Nolan out on the NSA stuff, then she's the one helping us lead from the national level. So I just want to make sure everybody was kind of aware of the little leadership changes that we had at the national level. There are some upcoming events that are coming from NSA. We have Winter Workshop that is going to be in Orlando, February 25th through 27th. It's going to be at the Renaissance Orlando SeaWorld. The hotel is on already taking reservations for that. So if you're ready to go, get ahead and get your hotel reserved in February. Influence is in Nashville, Tennessee. So that's July 9 through 11 at the Gaylord Hotel. And they're already taking reservations at the Gaylord. So if you're planning to attend those events, then go ahead and get those signed up and registered as well to go. The FSA Leadership Board, make sure that everybody knows we have new people that are coming every meeting. I want to make sure that you know who our leaders are. I am your president for this particular year. James Henderson is our past president. You can see him at the table over here in the beautiful coat. Then we have Peter Palmer, who's sitting right up here. He's handling part of our communications and Facebooks, what he's handling. Kim Beckett is out on vacation, and she is going to be our secretary for the year. We have Alex Desmond, I'm sorry, no, Demosthenes. I always have to pause and think of how to say her name. She is our CPA and going to handle our books for the next 2 years. And we have Dave Bricker, who's over here. He's going to help us with the Speakers Academy, as well as Laura Bonnet. She's going to be the co-dean of the Speakers Academy. So those of you that are new, you see the faces that are here to support you, to make certain that you are welcome at our chapter. If you reach out to any of our board of directors, we will help you have any questions answered that you might have. Okay? Thank you. We do have some new members here today. I already mentioned Jeremy. He's already jumped right in. Okay, both feet and one broken one right now. But he's captain behind the table. Nick Dove. is also one of our new members, Marilyn Rousseau, Paul Rotter, and Melinda Dransfield are the new ones. So thank you. We're really welcoming to add to our meeting that we have with you today. Okay. Just we had a board meeting and there was a survey that went out. The survey that went out before, I'm just not going to go through in a lot of detail, but I want to let you know this is one of the ways that we communicate with our chapter. Okay. Periodically, you will have a survey come out. We just want your input because not all the time do we get the specific questions answered that we need as a board to help serve you better. And I just wanted to cover a little bit of the highlights of what we went over and what some of the results were of that. So when we went through, we actually talked about how we're going to be returning back to the Westin, which is why we made a decision to go ahead and move forward so that we could have an in-person and hybrid meeting, because that was a consensus of the group that they felt like, you know, we could go ahead and continue to meet in our place where we've been for years, as long as we had some safety things to put in place. So we do have hand sanitizers around, and we also have face masks available for those that would like to have them. And we are going to practice social distancing to make certain that everybody is going to be comfortable. Okay. So when we look at the order of importance along with the programming, we do a lot of programming here at the chapter. And I wanted to see what is most important to everyone. And we're kind of hitting the marks right now. We're actually doing, you know, the chapter meetings are really high on the list. We've got the webinars, which are really high, that Dr. Helen does for us, and she's going to continue to do for us. So those are exciting. That we also have the socials are so much fun. We're going to alternate the socials with our webinars every other month. So we'll make certain that you know where those are going to happen so you can participate in that as well. And then our academy is really high on the list. So if you have already responded that you're interested in helping us with the academy, then please send us an email, or we may reach back out to you and say, hey, if you can help us, then we're going to put you to work, because there's a lot of places for everyone to plug into the chapter this year so that you can help us be a huge success. This is where we have the leadership as far as the interests of where you want to come, which is where the chapter leadership comes into play, and where you're going to be working with the VIPs, the new people that are coming in, to help them feel warm and welcome, and they know the ropes where we're going to go. They have all their information, as well as the academy members. So this is some of the information that we also received from them. We asked, what kind of speakers do you want to have for the next year? Because there's so many speakers across the country. We want to know, who are you looking for? These are the names that were actually provided to us when we sent out the survey. So we are in the process of going through those speakers, seeing who is going to be available in person, because we want someone to come in person, not just virtual. So it's taking us a little time to make certain that that's happening, but I want to let you know we do recognize the names that you shared with us, and we're going through those so we can bring to you some of the leaders that we want to have share in the chapter. Some of the other interesting topics that were brought to us is they want, you know, we want information on technology. We've got a guru right here, I tell you, that can talk to us about technology. And we might tap into that after letting him get settled and off his crutches. But that would be helpful too. So we listed all those things that were brought to our attention. We've taken under consideration. We're going to hold it into the chapter so that we can bring back to you what your requests are. We also have a new brochure. You may have seen it at the table. It's still a little bit of a work in process, okay? But it is something that we're going to give out to our new members. And once we get it down to the final version, it's going to be real high glossy on real good paper, and it's going to look amazing. But it looks amazing today, okay? So we have this for our new people and gives them an introduction of where we're actually going, okay? One last thing, name tags. FSA update, what we're going to have is we're going to send, now that we have people registered for the new year, and we're going to have some of us, you may see, we have these, you know, plastic tags. We need to get what your proper spelling is, what your credentials are that you want, and we're going to have those remade because our membership titles have changed from NSA. So we need to make certain our titles match, our badges match what our membership titles are. So we have to kind of review that. We will send out an email, Sarah will, in the next week. So when that goes out, please send us back what you need. We will use that to create new name tags so that when they come in, you will have a name tag where it's appropriate for you. Okay. The other thing that we have as far as the FSA update is our socials and our webinars. They are going to be alternating every other month. So I know that during last year, we had them every month, and every week we were doing something. We're going to put something back on a little bit more schedule. If you come back to our website, you can go through the entire calendar all the way up until next year. and see when those events are going to occur so you can plan a little bit better. Okay, good. All right, so what we have in store for you an amazing person. Those of you that have been with us for a number of years, you know Keith. Keith has been with us, and he is an amazing person. I'm just going to read a little bit of short bio, and I'm just going to, I can't memorize all his high accolades, I'm going to read them, so I don't miss them. Okay, but he has in store for anybody that is new. He's going to help you think about how you're going to form your business. Those of us that have been speaking for a while, he's going to help expand our business so that we can think about how we might want to do that. And those of us that are seasoned is going to say, okay, let me double check and make certain I'm covering our bases. So this is going to be a real interactive, engaging meeting, and I'm so excited to introduce to you Keith Harmeyer. He's the past president of FSA. He's a TEDx speaker, a founding partner of smartstorming.com. He's a co-author of the book Smart Storming, the game-changing process for generating bigger, better ideas. Keith worked for nearly 25 years in New York City advertising and marketing agencies, as well as an executive creative director and copywriter. I would like to introduce to you Keith Harmeyer.
There's no business like the speaking business. It's like no freaking business I know. You give a talk and someone gives you money. Show up on time and never go too long. If you're funny, they'll pay you more. Don't be a dummy, you'll do just fine. There's no people like speaker people. They always have something to say. Listen how they brag about their great big tea, about their best-selling book, and how they never speak for free. I've never heard so many fantasies. Let's get this show underway. FSA's meeting today. And now for my next number. Back in the saddle again. I'm back in the saddle again. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. It's good to be back in the saddle again. And what do I mean by that? Obviously, that we're here, which is a good thing. This is, I'll share with you, the first time in a year and a half since the beginning of the pandemic that I have been speaking in a live room, not just to the Brady Bunch, but hi Brady Bunch, good to see you, but not just to the Brady Bunch, to actual people. And you are actually live people, right? Because I've lost the ability to distinguish, so hopefully you are. Also, great to be back at FSA. It seems like just yesterday. Actually, it doesn't seem like just yesterday. It seems like 3 years ago, because that's how long ago it was, that I was in this room introducing my first meeting as president, the way that Rachel just did. So congratulations, Rachel. Best of luck. You are in for a lot of wonderful experiences this year. But it's great to be back here. Obviously, I think we were in this room at that point. We switched back and forth around here sometimes. The chapter's changed, obviously. Jeremy alone is enough change. The chapter has changed a lot in 3 years. We've welcomed a lot of new members over that time. We've expanded our geographic reach. One of the few benefits of the pandemic, because once we started to do things virtually, people who were not willing to make the drive were able to join us. So that's been a good thing. We've lost some members. Some of our members have moved away, or their businesses have gone in different directions. Jeremy, do you have my slides up? Ah, they are. Very good. And unfortunately, we've lost some members in more permanent ways. So this past week, sorry about that. There we go. We said goodbye to Dr. Gail Carson, as many of you know. We had a really nice virtual memorial service on Zoom. Gail was, for those of you that didn't know her, was one of the co-founders of this chapter and beloved by all of us. She was a really remarkable woman. and she's going to be really missed. So the chapter's changed in that way too. Not only the chapter's changed, obviously over the past year and a half, the world has changed. And just in case you hadn't noticed, but the world has changed pretty dramatically over the past year. And, you know, change can be difficult sometimes. It can be challenging, and sometimes it can be downright painful. In fact, I don't know about you, but a number of times over the past year and a half, I felt sort of like this. Oh, you know what? The sound, I forgot about that. It's supposed to go, but I can provide it. Thank you. You know, if you did the webinar with us last year that I did, which was a much shorter version of what I'm going to do today, you may have seen that slide, but it was just too funny. I had to include it. So, but yeah, you know, we've all had to deal with, contend with a lot of change. It's been hard. It's been frustrating. We still don't exactly know where we're going. But, you know, change can also provide opportunities for us. And I think that's really what I'm going to hopefully help you focus on today. The opportunities that come from tumultuous change that we're going through. I've been doing this work for about 12 years full time now, since I left my my career in advertising. These are some of the companies that I've had the good fortune and privilege to work with. And I put this slide up not to try to impress you. I'm really not trying to brag. I mean, after all, I am an NSA professional speaker, and I would never do something like brag. I do it so that you'll understand that this is real work. I mean, this is a real skill. In fact, I like to believe that it's a hard skill. This is not a soft skill that we're going to be talking about today. We spend a lot of time trying to master Zoom, trying to perfect our keynote, trying to work on our marketing. We spend endless hours of time doing that. Most of us spend very little time learning how to be better at using our creativity and our imaginations to be able to make our businesses better. There are lots of speakers at NSA that would be happy to take your money and tell you exactly what to do with your business. And that's great. You can learn from those people. I'm not speaking negatively about that. However, I happen to think that the best person to guide you in your business and what you should be doing and what is going to benefit you and your customers and your clients the most is you. Your business is unique, you're unique, and you have access to the ideas and the information that can help you move forward better than anyone else. But we don't, most of us don't spend a lot of time working on that. So that's really what we're going to be talking about here today. So the question is, what do I do now? Those companies, by the way, for 12 years, not for a year and a half, have come to me and my partner, I have a business partner in SmartStorming, to get us to teach their people how to do exactly what we're talking about how to approach their work differently, more creatively, more innovatively, so that they can not only manage change, not only handle change, but take advantage of change and use it to help them become more successful. And that's what this is really all about. So what we're really talking about, and it's you know, I'm trying not to use cliches like new normal and pivot and those things. Unfortunately, the word innovation has become a cliche. Because of the work that I do, I have to use it about 453 times an hour in my work. But that's really what we have to do. The time now is right for innovation. It's time for us to look at how we can become more innovative, more differentiated, and more suited to the new landscapes that we're all going to be working in, whatever that ends up looking like. So I am not going to tell you today how to earn $1 million over the next 12 months. I'm not going to tell you how to master email marketing so that you can attract 1,000 new clients. I'm not going to tell you any of those things. I'm not going to tell you anything except how to use your own imagination to come up with the right answers for your business. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing today, innovating. And you have some handouts. I think you have them, right? Printouts? Okay, good. I'm not going to describe them all to you. I'll reference them throughout. Brady Bunch, you should have gotten a link to get those handouts. Hopefully you got them. If you didn't, here's a very, very simple and easy to remember link that you can just type it. Actually, I think Sarah was going to put that in the chat. I don't know if you can. Sarah, can you put that link in the chat box? Okay, thank you. She's going to do that. So just in case you don't have the handouts, you can just click that link and get them. It's not absolutely essential that you have them for the work we're going to do today, but it will be helpful and it'll, I think, enhance it. Oh, by the way, the good news is I'm not going to stand here for 2 hours and a half or whatever it is and talk the whole time. That's the good news. You're not going to have to listen to me that much. The bad news is it's because you're going to be working. So we have a lot of work to do. This is a hands-on workshop. This is not a keynote. This is a workshop. You're going to be working today. Make sure you have plenty of paper. At that back table back there, I also have left a bigger stack of 8.5 by 11 sheets. So if you need more paper, just go back there and pick up some. Okay. But you have those handouts. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. There's the. All right. Later today, for those of you that don't have the digital files, I would like to send them to you. So all you have to do is send an email. It can be blank. It can say anything. It can say, I hated your presentation, whatever you want. And it just send it to keithfreegifts@gmail.com. That's KEITH. In this case, the E goes before the I. Just keithfreegifts@gmail. And you're going to get an auto response back with a couple of links. So you get the 4 sheets that are there, plus a couple of other sheets that I've added that might be helpful. More importantly, I think, is that, put it back, is that there will be a link to download a complete unedited copy of my book, Smart Screen, the Game-Changing Process for Generating Bigger, Better Ideas. 3 years ago, Joel Block gave everybody in the room he was my guest speaker at that first meeting, gave everybody a digital copy of the book, and I want to do the same thing. Which is good because it's also very hard to get. One of the changes that's taken place over the last year and a half is that our publisher went out of business during the pandemic. So our book right now is not available on Amazon. We're still trying to figure out how to make that happen without having to start from scratch. And I'm going to talk to you about that at some point, but Mr. Berger. But so you can get a copy of the book. You see down there at the bottom, it says no newsletter, right? No newsletter subscription. I promise you, I don't sell to speakers. I don't even send out a newsletter. So you can rest assured that I'm not going to take your email address and put it into my newsletter list and spam you. I mean, after all, I am an NSA professional speaker, and I would never do such a thing. Okay. My email says otherwise. All right. So, the book. Really, I urge you to take advantage of the book, not just because I wrote it. It was an arduous task. I co-wrote it with my partner. It took us over 5 years to write the book. It's one of the most comprehensive books on this topic, I believe, that's ever been written, certainly that we've ever found. If you are a facilitator, if you lead strategic retreats or anything like that, if you lead masterminds, 80% of the content in the book is about good meeting facilitation, how to manage personalities, how to keep energy high, how to keep things flowing. It's a really good reference, but it'll be a great reference for you after today if you want to do this kind of work on your own. So I urge you, send that email. I'll put it up again later, Keith Free Gifts, and you can get a copy of that. So let's jump right in. We're going to start working and get our creative juices flowing. This is going to be kind of a little warm-up. For those of you that are around during my year, you may have done some of these activities with me before because I used some of them during my year, but we use them all the time when we facilitate for our clients, those companies that we do. So this first activity, we're going to do 4 different idea generation techniques today, or brainstorming techniques, if you want to call them that, problem-solving techniques. And they fall into different categories. This one falls under the category of high-velocity thinking. It's a great way to start your sessions when you're trying to come up with ideas to solve problems or tackle challenges. And the name of the technique is idea sprint. There we go. Idea sprinting. Idea sprinting is a beat the clock technique. It's about getting things off to a really fast start. You come up with a lot of ideas very, very quickly, at least idea starters. But the real beauty of this technique is that if you play along and if you do it the way that I'm going to advise you to, there's no time for self-consciousness. There's no time for self-judgment. We just want to get as many ideas on the table. Good ideas, bad ideas, stupid ideas, brilliant ideas, doesn't matter. We just want to get as much out there as we possibly can in a short period of time. So this is how an idea sprint works. So we define a tight time frame. So we're going to do 3 minutes. We're going to do a 3-minute idea sprint, and I'm going to time it with my own. I'm wearing my contact today, which makes it a little hard for me to read. I'm going to give you a challenge statement, and you're going to consider that challenge. It's going to be a question. And then I'm going to challenge you to hit a mark. And what we're going to try to do here is do at least 15 or more ideas in 3 minutes. That's going to be really easy. I probably should have made it 20 or 25, but that's all right. 15 ideas in 3 minutes in the room. We're not going to write them down. You don't have to write this one. We're just going to call them out. This is a warm-up, all right? So we're not going to write them down. We'll do another idea script later, and I'll have you write those ideas down. And yes, so like that. Okay, I know I'm out of the. Oh yeah, so we're going to keep energy high. One of those handouts that you have is 25 questions. That's a great thing to use to keep yourself generating ideas. They're prompt questions. You do not have to use them right now because I'm going to lead you. So I'll be asking you prompt questions. But that list of questions is really great because whenever you're sitting down to come up with ideas, either alone or with other people, those questions are prompts that you can use to get you to think of new and different ideas. All right. And yeah. We're going to go for quantity, not quality. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but that's always going to be our goal during these exercises. We want to come up with as many ideas as we possibly can. Later in the process, there's an evaluation and selection time, and that's when we take a look at the ideas we've generated and we evaluate them. But right now, we're not worried about quality. We just want as many ideas as we can. Okay? So, are we ready? Let me get my timer out. And again, all I want you to do right now is to just shout. Oh, you know what, Rachel? It's going to be too fast. Just don't worry about it. We're just going to. Oh, well, they won't be able to hear. Oh, and Zoomers, if you want to type something in the chat, maybe Sarah could tell us. But at least play along silently with us. Okay. So yeah, you could try your best to. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you can yell it out. Can you unmute them, Jeremy?
They can unmute themselves.
Okay.
You can hear us?
Unmute yourselves. And if you have shout it out, okay? And Jean, I think you just asked, yes, we can hear you. Okay. All right, so are we ready? Okay. Here's the challenge. In what ways is your life, work, business, relationships, everything different today than they were pre-pandemic? You have 3 minutes. Go. What's the most obvious thing that comes to mind? More productive. More productive.
Less travel.
Isolated.
Better informed, less travel. What else did we hear?
Isolated.
Isolated, right? We're on our own. Cheaper laundry bill, yeah. Never had to wear long pants. This is the first time I've worn long pants in months. It's new. More connections, right? Okay. What else? What else comes to mind? Something that
More disputes.
What's that?
More disputes.
More disputes. Yes, absolutely.
More sedentary.
More sedentary, right? Longer distance communication. More. That's been facilitated, right?
I have a cubicle farm and I live in it.
There you go. Yes. Ah, excellent. Yes. More gratitude. Excellent. That's nice that you have that attitude after 18 months. More opportunities. Yes. Anything
More
else?
connections.
More connections. Hi, Renee. I didn't know you were here. Hi. More connections. Okay. Less patience. Ah, okay. And more patience at times. Okay, good. More what? More background. Oh, more backgrounds.
Less travel expense.
Less travel and less travel expense. Yes, absolutely. More family time, lots more, right? Maybe too much. Exactly. All right. What's another idea you haven't thought of?
More food.
More food. Yes. Day drinking. Right? What's that? 19 pounds worth of food. Okay, yeah. More exercise, Bob. Wow, good for you. That's why you live in networking. Innovative networking. Very good. I've let somebody else use the word innovative. All right, we got 1 more minute. We have to have at least 20 ideas out here now. Come on.
More technology.
New hobbies, more technology. What's a really silly thing that's happened over the last year and a half that you never imagined was going to happen? No toilet paper. No sanitizer. For a year, I tried to find isopropyl alcohol in the store. It didn't exist. Masks, yeah. I have 500 masks at home. It's amazing. We have 30 more seconds. Come on. What's one more idea that you didn't think of? Everybody, give me one more. Less gas, yes. More anger? Yes, more anger. I agree. Brady Bunch, anything? More happiness. All right. More government spending, that's for sure.
More independent projects.
Divorce rate, more independent projects, yes. More babies. One more.
Cats, more dogs adopted.
More, yes, I'm in that group.
And more guitars purchased.
And more, very good. Okay, that was it. Now, we didn't keep count. But I think it's pretty fair to say that we reached that 15 or more mark, right? And then, again, that just helps. First of all, what do you think of that as a technique? Just for getting a lot of thoughts out on the table. Can you see the value of that? I will just tell you that in our work with Under Armour and NBC Universal and Spotify and Sony Pictures and all those folks, every session we ever do, we start with an idea sprint. We do at least an idea sprint at the beginning of the session, and we often interject more throughout because they're a great way to get people's energy back, get people focused, and again, to get ideas to work with. So we're going to do another one in a few minutes, but that was, again, just to warm you up and to get the juices flowing, and that was a great job, everybody. So can we go back to slides? Yeah, so again, I think it's fairly obvious that the world has changed, maybe too obvious, but that's the case. So let's step back for a second and say, why are these skills that I'm talking about here so important, and not just during pandemics and all the things that we're going through, not then, but always. I said I've been doing this work for 12 years, and those companies have been coming to me for that length of time. So why is this so important? Because the world hasn't really just changed in the last year and a half. It's changed pretty dramatically. It's changed in a tumultuous way, as I said in the title of this. But the world's really been changing all along, and certainly for the last 20 or 30 years. In our work, it's something we call the innovation imperative. And it simply means that every business today, not just business, every organization, every individual, no matter what we do, we're all under continuous pressure to reinvent ourselves and the value we deliver to our customers, to our clients, to the organizations we work with. We have, as a world, as consumers, we've come to expect new and better all the time. I don't know about you, I really like my smartphone. My wife says I like it way too much. But I'll tell you, I have an iPhone 12 in my pocket, and I'll tell you this, it's a great phone. I already know that a year or 2 years from now, I will not want that phone. I'm going to hate that phone in about another year. Imagine, for those of you who've lived long enough, imagine 30 or 40 years ago having something like this and saying, yeah, but in a year, it's going to suck. But we know that because we've all come to expect that next year, there's going to be an iPhone 13 that I don't even know what it's going to do. It might be bigger, smaller, lighter, thinner, faster. It might play bridge. I don't know. But I know it's going to be better, and I know that I'm going to want it, right? That's the innovation imperative. And here's the thing. If Apple doesn't give that to me, guess what? In this world, somebody else will. And then my allegiance, my loyalty to Apple will be gone. Because you see, failure to innovate in this world, there we go, very quickly leads to irrelevance. And irrelevance is pretty much the same thing as extinction. This is an old slide. We haven't updated this slide in a long time. There are at least half a dozen other well-known companies that we could add to this slide that have gone away because they failed to meet the needs and the demands of their consumers that continuously wanted more and more and better and better. So just like we want that from Apple and Samsung and whoever else we're dealing with, your customers and your clients expect the same thing. They don't want from you what you were doing 2 years ago. They just don't. And I always say, if you're doing business today, certainly now, but if you're doing business today the way you were 2 or 3 years ago, you're in trouble. And if you're doing business 2 years from now the way you are right now, you probably won't be doing business. So, but suddenly, as I said, these skills have been important for years, for decades. But suddenly, yes, they're even more important than ever before. They're essential, right? Because of what's happening. So, you know, we say suddenly they're more important, but is it really sudden? So I want to ask you to think about that for a second. Rachel mentioned it before. We took a few moments of silence. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge what today is. It's 9/11. So those of us who were in any type of business at that time remember what that did to business, right? Overnight, the rug was pulled out from under us, and everything was the game was changed. By the way, I won't bore you with my 9/11 story, but I was still living in New York and working in Manhattan at that time. I was in Manhattan when it happened. I saw it happening actually, and was able to get out before the island was shut down and get back to New Jersey where I live, fortunately. But it was a surreal time, and I assume everywhere, but certainly in New York, for the next several months, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no business. Every project was canceled. All travel obviously was canceled. I actually happened to work for an agency at that time that did a lot of meeting production. So I had an awareness of the meetings industry. Everything died overnight. And by the way, a lot of speakers went by the wayside during that period, and other businesses as well, as we know. But we did evolve. We did come past it, and other some organizations actually thrived. Back in 1998. I don't know how many people might remember this, but there was a book released. It was very popular, called "Who Moved My Cheese?" Anybody remember it? Anybody read it? Yeah. By the way, that book was about as thick as my little finger, and I remember well. In 1998, it cost $20, and Bruce Turkell's new book was over 400 pages. It cost $20. It's a bargain. I remember at the time thinking, that's the most I've paid per word for a book in my entire life. But for those of you that aren't familiar with it, the book is really a parable about change. And there's a group of mice who live in a maze, but they have a big giant block of cheese right there every day. They have more cheese than they could ever need. They're mouse heaven. They just wake up every day and eat and have a blast. And one day they wake up and the cheese is gone. They don't know where it went, but somebody moved the cheese. And the rest of the book is really about how the different mice deal with the fact that their cheese has been moved. What do they do? And of course, there's one group of mice who says, you know what? We need to figure out a new way of functioning. There's one group of poor speakers, mice, who say, I can't wait till things go back to the way they were, because they will, because it was just too good. Nobody's going to give up the way things were. So that's what some of the mice did. They stayed put. But there were other mice that after a while said, you know what? This does not look good, and we may have to find some new cheese. So they venture out and they take some risks. They go outside their comfort zone to go and find new cheese. The mice that stayed behind did not fare too well, because in fact, the cheese never did come back. And I would suggest to you that I believe that's the same place we are today. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Just a couple years after that book was released, in the year 2000, we had another moment of change. That was called the dot-com bubble that burst. And it had a profound impact on business. For those of you that remember, you know that. If you don't really remember, if you weren't in business at that time, you might not have had a total awareness. But our economy collapsed, Wall Street collapsed, well-known, major, successful businesses went out of business overnight. It was a huge period of change. And we once again had to adapt to what all that was about. Next, of course, the following year, we had 9/11 and everything that did to business, as we just alluded to. Then, just a few years later, we had something known as the Great Recession, which once again put tons of speakers out of business, put tons of businesses out of business, and we had to once again reinvent the way we did business and the way we handled finances and all of that. Then we had a pretty good stretch for a decade or a little bit more until last year. And we know what happened then. So this changed. It's true that what we're going through now is, unprecedented. We've never gone through anything quite like it. 9/11 was a day. It was a moment in time. We are now a year and a half into this period of change with no clear end in sight. But nonetheless, we've always had to go through this. And before 1998, we could name a whole bunch more. The recessions in the 70s and 80s. It was There've always been times of change. So if today the book were written, it would probably be called Who Infected My Cheese? but the who and the how and the why is not nearly as important as what you are going to do about it. There it is. Yeah. What are you going to do about it, right? So, and again, when things get back to normal, well, look, it's anybody's guess. And any speaker that comes up here in the coming months, by the way, and tells you exactly what you need to be doing moving forward in your business is either a liar or delusional, okay? And I don't mean any disrespect to my colleagues, but nobody knows right now what it's going to be. We just don't know. We're starting to have some ideas. We have some data, just like the CDC. We're getting more and more information that we can work with to try and figure out some of the basics, some of the foundational things like providing to the needs of your customer, finding out what their pain points are, all of those sorts of things, relational selling. But exactly what our business is going to look like is impossible to predict. 2 years ago, you could have never predicted the degree to which we were going to rely on a technology like Zoom or WebEx or Teams or whatever we might be using. We could have never foreseen that. And we can't foresee what it's going to be a year from now. So the trick is going to be being nimble, we're going to be able to continuously course correct and look for new opportunities and take your business in new and different ways. Okay? Waiting for normal to come back is probably going to lead to nothing. The fact is, and again, this is opportunity, as Bob said during our idea spread. This is the opportunity I was talking about earlier with the change provides. Because just like we don't know, just like we're asking what do I do next, your clients and your customers are doing the same thing. My customers, by all those wonderful companies you saw, in March of 2020, they vanished. They disappeared. Alien abduction, they were gone. They were just, we heard nothing. They were gone. Everybody was dumbfounded. Everybody was numb. No one knew what to do. But something remarkable happened towards the end of the year. I would say probably around November, late October, they started coming to life. People woke up. They came out of their days. And my clients started saying, what do I do now? We have to work in a different way than we ever worked before. We work a lot with marketing, branding people, things like that. We work with other groups as well. But these people said, we need to come up with ideas, and we're not even in the same location anymore. We're working over the Zoom thing. We don't know how to work. Please help us. Please help us learn how to be different and new and innovative in this new reality that we have. So that's the kind of opportunity that we're all going to be having here as our clients have needs that they don't know how to solve. If we can solve them for them, it's going to be a gold mine. So if we're all going to be innovators, and that's my goal, to turn you all, to help you all adopt the mindset, the daily mindset of an innovative thinker and an innovative problem solver, we better know what innovation actually is, okay? So if I asked everybody in this room what innovation means to you, we would undoubtedly have as many definitions as we have people in the room and on the Zoom. But this is the definition we use in our work at SmartStorming. And it's pretty simple and clear, and I think you'll see that it applies very easily to a lot of different things. So we define innovation as the introduction of something new or different that provides greater value or benefit. It has to be new or different than what was in place before, but more importantly, it has to provide greater value or benefit. Remember what I said about the iPhone. I know it's going to be better, not just different. It's going to be better, something better for me than the one that I have in my pocket is doing. That's really important about innovation. Now, when you think of innovation in those terms, you can see it can apply to anything, a product, a service, a process, a business, an entire business model. As long as it's new or different, doesn't have to be totally new, just different than what was there before, and provides greater value or benefit. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to introduce the new iPhone, you don't have to do anything that radical. All you have to do is take something that could be improved and make it better. Simple. That's innovation. There we go. And here's the deal. Innovation is fueled by ideas. It obviously takes a lot more than just ideas to arrive at an innovative solution. But if you don't have the idea to start off with, you've got nothing. Every innovative product or service or process, anything you've ever imagined, began as someone's idea, right? Have to have the idea first. And so in order to be able to be innovative, you better be very good at generating ideas. So as I always say, the only way to win the game today and moving forward is to change the game every single day. If you have ideas that are good enough, if you are creative enough. Now, you might be thinking at this point, wow, that seems like a lot of pressure to be able to come up with ideas all the time. By the way, that's what I did for 25 years. My job was to come up with ideas. Every day of my life, I had to come up. I came up with tens of thousands of ideas for advertising, for marketing, for branding ideas, for product ideas. That was my job. So you might be thinking, well, am I creative enough to do that? Am I creative enough to be able to come up with those ideas? So let me ask real quick, just a few of us, we're all friends. And you guys, Brady Bunch, you can do this too if you want to turn on your cameras. Who here considers herself or himself to be highly, highly creative? I mean, like Elon Musk, batshit crazy creative. Who here considers himself like that? Okay, good. Well, you got a few, good. Okay. That's good. Healthy egos here at the Florida Speakers Association, right? No, I have my hand up too. That's good. Excellent. So we have a few people here who identifies highly creative. That doesn't surprise me in a room like this. All right. Who here considers herself or himself to be moderately creative? You know, on a good day, you come up with an idea. You're like Justin Bieber creative, maybe. Okay. And always when I say that, Bob, half the hands go down when I say that. All right, I think we probably had more. How about you? How about the Brady Bunch? Moderately creative. Okay, good. We got a few there. So that was, I think, most of us. And then is there anyone here who's confident, self-confident enough to admit that you are hopelessly left-brained and not very creative at all? Anybody? Anybody? Oh, good. Nobody. Excellent. Well, that's good. Well, good. That's fair. That's fairly typical response, although we usually get a few. But again, in a room of speakers, I would have assumed that most people consider themselves at least to be moderately creative. But the responses that we got were not out of line. Several years ago, Adobe did a study called the State of Create. They surveyed 5,000 people in the countries you see there on the screen, 5 major industrialized countries around the world. When they did that survey, 80% of the people surveyed said that they felt that creativity was critical to economic growth. About 2/3 of the people surveyed said that they felt creativity was valuable for society. But get this, only 1 in 4 people said that they felt they were living up to their creative potential. So somewhere inside they realized that they had maybe the potential to do that, but they weren't living up to it. 75% of us feel that we are not creative enough. We are not innovative enough to really excel at this innovation. That is opportunity, right? That's opportunity. When I hear that, I know that there are a lot of people out there who are confused, who aren't sure about what they're doing. They're insecure, and especially right now, they don't know how to solve problems for themselves in many cases. And that's where you can come in and help them. So here's the reality. Everybody really is creative. Even that guy on the slide is creative. If you've ever thought of something, just imagine something that you had never thought of before, then by definition, you're creative because you created something where just a moment before it didn't exist. Yes, just in your mind, but that's creativity. Yes, you see, there's this notion that in order to come up with very creative ideas, you have to have some sort of special gift or a special talent. You have to be one of the designated creative elite, or as I sometimes refer to them, the CE for short, right? You know those people. They dress in all black usually, right, Bob? Or at least they used to, Bob. I don't think like now they wear Crocs and shorts and t-shirts, and undoubtedly have big beards. But you know, they dress a little different, they talk a little different, they all hang out together, they go to lunch together. You know that group. So let's get the slide back up just for a second. But so as somebody who many people might have considered to be part of the CE, I have this is a well-guarded secret. And that is that the CE is BS. The CE is DS. The notion that only specially gifted or talented people can come up with creative ideas is a myth. It's simply a myth. You see, where we get hung up on this whole topic of creativity and innovative thinking is when we think to ourselves, well, wow, Dave Bricker can play the guitar really, really well. Keith can sing like crazy. James is a musician. I can't write a 7-line, whatever, 3-line haiku, rather as much as I write a novel. So I mustn't be very creative. I can't do any of those things. I can't draw a stick figure. You see, the things that I just referred to are about artistic talent, not creative thinking ability. Artistic talent is a very different thing from creative thinking ability. In fact, you don't need any artistic talent whatsoever in order to be a great creative thinker. Even Albert Einstein, who arguably the most creative thinker in modern history, once said, "I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination." Einstein understood he didn't have to be an artist in order to be a great innovative thinker and a creative problem solver. So that's what we're really talking about here, creative problem solving. It's that process for finding new and novel solutions to problems or challenges. It's something that we do every day. If you've ever been on your way someplace in your car and you hit a big traffic jam and then you had to figure out an alternate route home, that was creative problem solving. If you ever had to throw a meal together at the last minute using whatever ingredients you had in your refrigerator, in your cupboard, that was creative problem solving, right? If you ever figured out how to get here on time when on a Saturday morning when your car was low on gas and you almost got hit, that was creative problem solving. So anyway, we all solve problems creatively every single day. We just don't think about it that way because we do it so spontaneously. In our work now, we actually use a psychometric assessment with some of our clients where we can actually measure people's creative abilities in a variety of different areas. Because, as I said, everybody's creative, they're just creative in slightly different ways because they have certain strengths and challenges in different areas. But to really sort of simplify that, these are the 5 traits we've identified of highly creative thinkers: curiosity, imagination, the ability to imagine things that they hadn't thought of before, intuition, just that sort of gut feeling about what might be good or valuable or work, perception, being able to assess the landscape and the situation and figure out the right way to proceed, something that we need a lot right now, and playfulness. I'll refer back to this later, but most highly creative people approach that work with a lightness, with a playfulness. They enjoy experimenting, they enjoy tinkering, they enjoy trying things. So I ask yourself, how many of those traits do you recognize in yourself? I'm guessing that you probably see all or maybe most or even all of them in you, because we all have. So now you know you really do have everything it takes to be as great a creative problem solver as the best that have ever lived. You just have to know that. So let's give it a try. We're going to do our next exercise. And this is when we are going to use one of the handouts in a minute. You don't have to grab it yet. So we're going to do another idea sprint. This time I'm going to ask you to write your ideas down. Oh, so we're not going to shout them out. You're going to write your own ideas down for you, because we're going to use one of those ideas a little bit in a few minutes. So you know the drill. Oh, okay, you know the drill. I'm going to make it a little easier. I'm going to challenge you to try to come up with at least 10 ideas for your list in the 3 minutes. I'm going to set my timer again. Okay. And Brady Bunch, get ready. All right.
Is this group communique?
Oh, no. We don't need to hear them right now. Thank you, guys. No, this is going to be silent. You're going to write them down. So here's the challenge. What are some challenges your clients or customers or prospective clients are facing right now that they've never faced before? And don't limit yourself to business. Think about anything that your clients may be facing right now that they've never faced before. You have 3 minutes to go. What's the most obvious thing that comes to mind? Probably one of the things you called out that you're facing. Think about, if you can think of a particular client or a particular organization that you work with, what's unique to them that you're aware of? something about their business, their environment that they're having problems with. If you have a personal relationship with a client, what do you know that they might be going through personally that's having an impact on their ability to do business? Think about their teams. So very few of my clients, at least, work all by themselves. They tend to have people that they work with. What kind of challenges are they facing in that respect? Collaborating, working together, sharing. What's something that seems really insignificant, but might be nagging at? Something that you can think of. There's something that they would never admit, but that you suspect they might have a challenge with, either because it's embarrassing or it would make them look weak. Think about financially, in terms of the way they communicate. The degree to which they're depending on technology today, and how is that getting in their way, or any challenges that they may have? About 1 minute. What's one more idea that you didn't think of yet? And then you come up with that one. What's one more idea that's similar to that idea, different? More seconds. Try to come up with 2 more ideas before we run out of time. What's one really stupid idea? Can you come up with a stupid idea? Try it. 5 more seconds. I've got one more idea. Okay, and time. All right. Good job. Who got at least 10 ideas? See a show of hands. Okay, we got a few. Okay, at least 5 ideas. Okay, almost everybody got at least 10. Okay, good. Excellent. So let's share. Who'd like to share something? And if we can, Brady Bunch, you can unmute yourselves if you'd like to share something as well. Anybody? Emotional imbalances. Personally, like they're personally going through that. Okay, Terry? Excellent. Is that something that you could help a client with? You could help them strategize, though, possibly. Yes, Laura. Oh, limited raw material and labor, yeah, like chips and for automakers, right? Rachel?
Yeah,
Not
I kind
impressive.
of with what she said. I put that they have. How do you deliver quality of care to patients when you have, limited resources?
Very good. You may not have the answer for that, Rachel, but is that something you could work with clients on and coach them and help them strategize? Sure. James.
In the service industry, how to execute service with limited personal contact.
Very good, right? Because we hear a lot about personalization of service, right? How do you do that when you can't be in the same space? Do you see what's going on here, by the way? That do you see why I say that the gurus, and there are a lot of very smart people out there that teach, that can teach you things about your business, but no one really understands. You understand that everybody is framing this from the perspective of their world, right? The clients that they work with, the needs that their clients have. That's why no one can tell you what's best for your business except for you. Peter, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. Yes.
How to transition from a non-digital world to a completely digital world.
Absolutely. Yeah. People are struggling like crazy like that. My son works for a consulting company that works with people on their network infrastructure. Their pitch is that they save clients, and they work with very big companies. They save them money by helping them revamp their network. They're going crazy right now because people's organizations' networks are under new strains. They have new demands. They don't know what to do because they're having to do so much more technologically than they used to have to do. So it's a great, once again, change that leads to opportunity. Did I see another hand? Did anybody virtually have something to share? Okay.
Yeah, Keith, I will.
Okay, Helen.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's good to see you.
So I looked at it from the point of view of diversity, obviously, and I think there are several challenges in my field that, you know, with the virtual work is how do you convert your work to virtual? That's one. But also the clients are experiencing moving to the next bright, shiny object. And I think my challenge is how do I keep people focused on the challenges of race? After George Floyd, we saw this increase in the challenges of race, but now people want to talk about gender pronouns and intersectionality. And it seems that they don't have the capability to walk and chew gum. It is, why can't we do all of these simultaneously instead of saying, well, we did race for 10 minutes, now let's go over here because this is more interesting. So, and how do we focus people on being international and global and not just US centric? So I don't know if that's what you're asking for, but.
No, absolutely, Helen. And I think we're gonna do a second step now. And I think you might have the opportunity to explore that a little bit further with the thing we're gonna do. Jean, did you have something to say? I just saw you pop in and out there.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think my clients are very much figuring out next shift right there. Many of them are shifting what they're doing, and it's figuring out what that vision is for the next few years. And that's different.
Absolutely. And it's something we're all going to be reconsidering as we go along, I think. Okay, so let's go on. So we are, okay, good. So we are going to go to the next one. So this is going to be our next technique. And as you see, it says value compass. So we're going to use that little value compass. It's really going to be there mostly for you to refer to. But this is a very cool problem-solving technique. And I did this, I think, a few years ago. I used it in one of the meetings. But the Smart Storming Innovation Value Compass is exactly what the name suggests. It's a compass. So it's just a device that we can use to help us focus our thoughts, our problem solving, our idea generation thoughts in a particular direction, as opposed to have it being random and free associative and all over the place. Nothing wrong with that. That's good at a certain time, but this allows us to sort of focus it down. And so really it's pretty simple. The way it works is you think about your challenge and then you pick one direction on the compass. Exactly. And then you generate as many ideas as you can within a certain amount of time on that direction. So you just pick one direction and say, I'm just going to work on that for the next few minutes. And then when you either complete a certain amount of time or come up with all the answers you're going to come up with, you pick another direction. And you can continue doing that for the entire compass if you want to, or you can just pick the ones that you want. So, so again, this is the one we're going to use. If you do get the book and also the stuff that I'm going to send you, I also included in that a blank compass, because you can use your own directions. You can write them in, write things that would apply more specifically to your business. But we're going to use this one today. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is, from that idea script we just did, I want you to go through that list, all the ideas you came up with, and I want you to pick one that kind of resonates with you. Again, use that intuition that we talked about, that perception, and pick one that you think would be worthwhile for you to work on in terms of coming up with ways of delivering greater value or benefit to your clients. Just take a minute, look through everything, pick one direction. Everybody have something? Great, okay. So, okay, great. So, yes, okay. So the challenge is, in what ways can you deliver greater value or benefit to your customer clients in this particular area, the thing that you've identified? How can you deliver greater value or benefit? Now, for the sake of time, we're just going to do 3 directions on the compass today, okay? So I've just sort of picked 3 that I think would work. So the first is make it irresistible. So what do I mean by that? How can you offer something to your clients that would be absolutely irresistible, something they simply couldn't live without? It would just be so enticing and sound so good and so valuable that they couldn't stand to not have it, okay? So just take a couple minutes and write down as many ideas as you can think about what you could do for your clients that would make your offering irresistible. Okay, think about it. Don't worry about how you do it yet, but what might you do? Everything is figure outable. We can figure it out later. What might you do that would make your solution irresistible to your client? Something that nobody else could give them. A few more seconds. Okay. You're in the middle of an idea. Finish that one up. And then we'll go to the next direction. Okay. So next, we're going to go over to the other side and do socialize it. I love this one. How can you socialize the, it's kind of interesting, kind of speaks to what you were just talking about. How can you socialize the value or benefit that you can do? How could you add a socialization aspect? Now, the obvious way to go in this day and age is social media, right? Social networking. That's fine if you have ideas there, but try to think beyond that. How can you add a social and interconnected aspect to whatever you would do that would make it more advantageous, more valuable, more beneficial to your client and their teams? How could you socialize? How could you add a tribe aspect to it, if that's the way to do it, or a way of exchanging information and ideas, a way of collaborating and supporting, a way of enjoying it more, adding humanity to something that might not have as much right now as we would like. Exactly what everybody's trying to figure out how to do right now with Zoom calls and the like. Okay. Another minute or so. Anything you can think of that would help you add a socialized aspect to the value you could deliver. Okay, finish up. Again, if you need more paper at any point, there's some in the back table back there. Oh, and there's some up here as well. Okay. Oh, in the middle of the tables, there's some. Okay, good. If you run out, there's some in the back. Okay, let's go to our last direction, and that is provide something unexpected. I also like this one. So obviously, you've been trying to think of things that you hadn't thought of before for the moment, but what could be really unexpected to your client or customer? Something that you would provide to them or offer to them related to your solution that would be something they never imagined you could do or that they could do. Think about that. Something unexpected. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to the task at hand. I'll tell you a story in a second about that. Could be unexpected that would help them with that challenge that they're facing. Something that you might be able to deliver. And don't worry right now about, again, how to do it. But what would be really good to do? This is where your imagination really comes into play. Let's play what if. What if I did this? How would that impact my client? A few more seconds. Okay, you can finish up. I'm going to tell you a quick story because I love this story. It's so interesting. My partner and I were doing a program, a related program, not the same one, at an advertising agency in New York. We do a lot of work with agencies, as you might imagine, so that's our background. And this group in particular had a very, very difficult client, somebody that was very critical, usually in a bad mood. They had a lot of trouble selling ideas through to this client. They really were having struggles. So we started to strategize about this. So we got them to really think about that client and what the client was going through, challenge that client was facing. Ended up that this client was a single mom who had a kid in school, and she had to get out of the office early every day to get her kid. And the agency was usually having meetings around midday or early in the afternoon. And she was a wreck. She was nervous and tense and always in a bad mood. And that team came up with not how to communicate better or how to come up with better ideas. They realized that she usually had to skip lunch. And so the next time they scheduled a meeting in the midday, early afternoon, they brought a muffin. It's a true story. They brought a muffin to this client, and it transformed the relationship. From that day forward, they had fantastic meetings. The client appreciated them, loved their ideas because they brought her a muffin. Because that was something unexpected, and it was value that they could deliver to that client, not necessarily related to the business, but related to her life, that made them a more valuable partner to that person. Brilliant. That's how far our imagination can take us with these sorts of things, something so simple. So, okay, I'm gonna get there. There it is. So let's share. Who has something to share? Who came up with something in any one of the three directions that you kind of think is interesting? James?
Provide something unexpected.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking about the service without being in personal contact. We have the availability of video. I could, because we have emails of people, because they're getting their food, not like they used to, they're getting it through DoorDash and all those other people.
Sure.
Emails. I could send to random customers a 30-second personalized video thank you by email to say, welcome to James's Big Burgers, and thank you for dealing with us, Keith. We really appreciate your business. Can't wait to see you again.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. And how much does it take to do that? It takes a few minutes, right? Takes a few minutes. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
By profession, I'm a contractor.
Yes.
And so I have a lot of EPA clients. And I remember something that Neil Quinn said years ago.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. I remember something that Nito Quavain said years ago, and this just happened to me recently. He said, and everything you do should be intentionally congruent to everything else you do. And so my clients, I do one-on-one appointments, but then I'm also the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction, where I do $1 billion luncheon. And just recently, in the last 30 days, I had this idea, why don't I invite all of my construction clients and their clients to be my guests at my $1 billion luncheon for free. Phenomenal.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Anne. I'm going to go with Laura first because people first.
First, I'm a woman, I will take it.
I'm not saying that, but you can. Okay, good.
So being in the food industry, a lot of what we do is product sampling. And like speakers, we are a very huggy, like want to be together kind of group. So my out there idea, because you said to be out there, is creating a hologram program where we could be in the same room, physically seeing each other at the same time, and being able to have the sense of touch and anything else we can incorporate. So
Cool. And as I said, you don't have to know how to do it right now. Because I happen to think that holograms of AI, virtual reality, we're going to start seeing so much more of that coming into play. I mean, we're already seeing things developing in that area. So you'll be able to figure it out, Laura, but good. Excellent. That's terrific. Bob.
I wrote down, don't assume you know what irresistible is.
Ah, very good. Excellent. Yeah, and that's true. By the way, we have a whole chapter in the book and a technique called questioning assumptions. We actually call the technique escaping the box, because when we say we need to think outside the box, that means we have to think outside our own assumptions about what is or isn't true. And we have an entire, that's such a powerful concept. As I said, we devoted a whole chapter to it. But don't assume that you know what's irresistible to your client necessarily. You can use your intuition, you can use your perception, but sometimes the best way to find out is to ask, just sort of ask questions and see where it leads you. Okay, anybody else? Yes, Bobby.
I can make a personal trip to some of my clients' homes and have that personal interaction, because I deal with a lot of people on a broad scale, and have that one-on-one is really, really important. So having that opportunity to have one-on-one with people, and I find that is it can sometimes change people's minds and their hearts.
Excellent, very good. Is that something you hadn't really thought of before, or maybe you considered it but not too much?
I've considered it, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, like I said, you don't have to know how to do it quite yet, but it's something that you identify. Good. Yes.
I do a lot of work with burnout and emotional exhaustion and helping individuals and organizations with that. So I was thinking about creating like a burnout prevention gift box that goes out to my one-on-one coaching clients right when we meet, journal, planner, lacrosse balls that we use for myofascial massage, exercise bands, a Calm subscription for meditation. But just putting that together in a beautiful gift box and sending that out to my coaching clients, and then also some of the corporate leaders that I want to work with. Excellent. Great idea. By the way, as you're hearing, these types of things don't have to be high tech. I mentioned Bruce Turkel earlier, our colleague, Hall of Fame speaker, who's a member of this chapter. Bruce is one of the best people I know, and it's something that I never did at sending out handwritten thank you notes. And Bruce has, over the years, sent me several for various things, some of which I didn't feel warranted thank yous. But the first time I got a handwritten thank you note from Bruce Turkel, I was like, whoa, that is so cool that he actually took the time. Now, think about that. Like, I was taken aback by the fact that he wrote that he did something at old school as writing a thank you note. And I've now started to do it. Some of you may do that, but it's the kind of little unexpected thing or irresistible thing that you can do that doesn't cost anything except a little bit of time and a stamp. Ah, yes. Sorry. Yes, anybody on Zoom have something they want to share? Renee.
Okay, well, Keith, I think you've inspired me, and based on what Bob just said, not to make an assumption, I would ask my clients who are having trouble finding out what they want to do next. They're confused, they're depressed, they're feeling isolated. So I would ask them if I could send them a song and sing them a song that I wrote, and the song is I Want to Be Me. So I would sing them the song, I would send them the song, and I would ask them if they'd want to sing it along with me. And I would send them also a little package of crayons and a coloring CAD, and ask them if they would draw along with me when they sing the song, or just listen to me sing the song and draw what it feels like when they sing or hear I Want to Be Me, to try to find out and use a different kind of an assessment with them that could be maybe more creative and more personal.
Very nice, and I know a little bit about your work, so that's a very cool idea. Nice, I'm glad you got that. Yes, Rick.
My line of work is quite a bit different than everybody else's, but I was thinking, I deal a lot with legal compliance with hospitals and healthcare. And a lot of the talks that I do are showing where the hospitals got into legal trouble, there's malpractice, and you look at the medical records for review. Well, what I find is that when you look at the documentation, there's things that are missing. And what's missing is what gets them into litigation, and what gets them into litigation is not showing that they meet the minimum expectations, which goes back to what I thought about, how do you continue to demonstrate that you're delivering quality care when you have limited resources? Well, a lot of it's what you write down. So if I could, work with the client, say, give me your last, claims that you had, the 10 claims, and let me go through them and show them where the deficiencies were, and then focus on the minimum expectations to reduce their liability exposure. I don't know.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. Very, very good. And again, is that something that you've considered before, or it just sort of came up here, or is it you sort of thought about it? But
Well, I've done it on case by case by case, but never as working with an institution to say, let's figure out why you're having so many claims. I mean, I pick and choose all around because of my exposure, but it's not really to one hospital to help reduce their liability. It's like one case at a time.
Excellent. Terrific. All good stuff. Anybody else? Yes?
I'm just very new at this and I haven't actually started a speaker program, but one of the things that I go back on is that experience of someone who has been there, which of course comes with age as well, is something that I feel I can give, because my whole business was changed by somebody like you saying one sentence to me. I heard his sentence was very simple. He said to me, and it was the beginning of the recession. He said to me, if you think that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you will fail. If it ain't broke, take it apart and put it back together again, even better. And that one sentence changed my whole life and my whole business. If I could pass that on to any future client who is going through what we're all, the change that's happening now, I feel that would be a really good way to give advice or help someone.
Excellent, excellent. And that is something that you could give to them. I did a program a few years ago where I used that expression a lot. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it remember that dinosaur slide I showed earlier? That's a fast one. In the advertising world, we used to, there was sort of a joke cliche that we all used to say, which was that, whatever the client says they want, always give it to them. Always give the client what they want, and you will soon not have a client. So that's something that we all have to keep in mind. Steve Jobs said, people don't know what they want. You have to know what they want before they know, right? So these are all great things to keep in mind. Thank you. That was excellent. Anything else before we move on? Good stuff, everybody. So what did you think about the creative compass, the value compass? A valuable tool, you think? Yeah, right? Okay, I saw some clapping back there on Zoom. As you can see, I'll just do it aside here. You did two different techniques now. You've done an idea sprint and you did a value compass, two very different types of techniques. That's the value of these techniques, that they help you to think in different ways than you would normally think. Most of us, when we sit down to come up with solutions, come up with ideas, we know one technique, and that's called free association. That just means you sit down and you say, all right, what's going to come to mind? That's a technique and it's a valid thing to do. It's just not a particularly effective technique. So by learning some of these different techniques that we can apply, it's no different than learning tricks on how to use a PowerPoint or a Word or a Zoom. You want to learn the tricks that are going to help you be more effective. So again, you're going to do 4 techniques today. In the book, there are instructions to 20 different techniques. Some of them are for groups. Some of them also apply for individual work. So I again encourage you to download them. Okay. Anybody have any questions at this point before we go on? We just have another section to do before we take a break. Anybody? Zoom? Brady Bunch? Okay. Work for me. Okay, so I heard how to work like highly innovative thinkers and supercharge your idea generation process. There are things that we do and that a lot of people do who work in this space that sort of become best practices. So I'm going to share a few of those with you right now because I think they can really help you be more effective. And again, so these types of things apply whether you work alone or and if you have a team, maybe even more so. First is plan your work sessions. In our Smart Brainstorm leadership training that we teach to corporations, we say all the time, of all the steps in the process, planning is the most important one. And it's the one that nobody does. Take a few minutes before you sit down to come up with ideas, to solve challenges, to think through what you're actually going to do during that session and what you need to have available to you. So one of your handouts is a plan, right? we provide that. And again, I'll send it to you digitally as well. But that's a planner that you can go through. Now, I'm not going to take a lot of time on this because it does just take some time to get through. But actually, Rachel, can I borrow yours for 1 second? Easy for to read that on the screen. Some of you know that I have vision challenges. So first is the problem definition. That really just means getting very clear. What are you actually trying to do? I can't tell you how many. I've sat, by the way, in literally thousands of idea generation brainstorming sessions in my career, literally thousands. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten, you know, an hour and a half into it, and we realize we've been working on the wrong problem, right? So the first thing to do is really get crystal clear. What is my challenge? What am I trying to accomplish? And be sure you know that before you start working. A problem statement. We actually do a whole exercise in our full training on teaching people how to write effective challenge statements. There's a wonderful quote that a problem well stated is a problem half solved. So if you take a moment to think through the language, and this is particularly important if you're working with other people, but if you take a few minutes to think through how you're actually teeing up the challenge, how you're framing it, you can get your imagination thinking much more quickly. Participants, if you do have the opportunity to work with other people, if you have a coach, if you have a mastermind, any of those things, who would you like to help you through this process? Also, if you need support from somebody that has information or skills or talents that you don't have, who might those people be? Background information, right? What information do you need? So we have a lot of great blue sky ideas here. I think some of them are things that you would have to figure out how to do. What background information do you have to have? What would you have to know more about? And again, or do you need to have an expert come in and help you with that? Techniques. Are you going to use any problem-solving techniques when you sit down to do your session? What would you like to do? You know a couple now, so that's great. Selection criteria. We're going to talk about that later. And then next steps. After you come up with the idea, what are the first steps you're going to have to take in order to turn that idea into a reality? So you can literally do this in 5 minutes, but if you take that 5 minutes to plan your work session, you know, today from 9 to 11, I'm going to be working on this aspect of my business. I'm going to be coming up with ideas. Before I do it, I'm going to sit down and work through this planner and figure out what I need to do to optimize my efficiency and my effectiveness during that 2-hour period. Do that. It's extremely powerful. Okay. Any questions about planning? Like I said, it's a big topic, and again, there's a whole chapter on the book and blah, blah, blah. But I encourage you to consider that, the value of that. Stock your creative pond before fishing for ideas. There's a wonderful book, if you're into the topic of creativity, called The Artist's Way. It's by a woman named Julia Cameron. You know it, Anne? Yeah, it's a great book, wonderful. And kind of a standard classic in the world of creativity. But she talks about this notion of stocking the pond. So we talked before about, do you have to have a special gift or a special talent to be able to come up with innovative solutions? And you don't. But what you do have to have is stuff in your head to work with, right? You have to have things that inspire you. So what I would encourage you to do, and hopefully many of you do it, is do go out there and study other speakers. Do look at other people's businesses, not just speaking business, other people's businesses. Look at it from the perspective of a detective, right? Trying to learn things, find things that inspire you, that might give you an idea or a flash of inspiration. We need to have things in our head to work with. Just to sort of metaphorically, I've done a number of projects with Under Armour. Most recently, just a few months ago, we just ended a pretty big program with them. Several years ago, we went to Baltimore, where they're located, and delivered training in their brand new innovation center. It was top secret. We couldn't even take any pictures or anything. But it was an entire building that was devoted to their innovation process. And it was loaded with stuff. They had fabrics, they had 3D printers, they had, I just things you couldn't even, I couldn't even imagine that they had stocked this place with, because what they wanted their people to do was come with an idea and then rapid prototype and see if it worked and see how it felt and see how things went. They needed stuff. So make sure you have stuff in your head to work with. We call that stocking the pond, okay? Great. Use a variety of ideation techniques. Okay, good. Yes, that slide builds. So I've already referenced this a few times. You're going to learn 4 today, but these techniques really help. They inspire you. They almost force you to think in different ways than you would before. This is, by the way, what all of our clients really want. All the education part, they see the value in it, but they want the stuff. We call this the crack, right? This is the bag of tricks, and they all want that. In fact, a lot of our clients have us come back in after we do training, simply to teach them more techniques, because it's easier to have us teach them than for them to read them in our book. But familiarize yourself with some of these techniques. Beyond the 4 that we do today, because there are many different ones. Some of them get you to think. So you see here, we have, you did idea sprinting. We're going to do a mind map after the break. They're counterintuitive. We have techniques where you intentionally try to come up with bad ideas. Like, let's try to come up with the worst ideas we can possibly think of for the next 20 minutes. Sure, it's incredibly powerful. Spend 15 or 20 minutes coming up with bad ideas, then go back and look at the bad ideas and say, how can I turn that into a good idea? Because sometimes coming up with bad ideas is kind of fun and playful, and it's easier for us to do. But sometimes we come up with things that are bad that are very, very provocative, right? So you know the old thing, I'll say it later, no such thing as a bad idea. That's because even a bad idea can contain the seeds of a great idea if you give it a chance, right? So counterintuitive, empathy. You know, we just did an empathy sort of based exercise with the compass. What is your client going through? So there are techniques that help you get your head into the mind of your customer or your client to see what are they experiencing? How can I understand better what they're going through? So the point here is just learn some, you don't have to know a lot. Learn a handful that you like, that you understand how they work, and that you can use 3, 4, 5, and then use them when you sit down to come up with ideas for your business. Very, very powerful. Easy to find. Just Google brainstorming techniques or problem-solving techniques. There are millions of hits. There are literally dozens, hundreds of different techniques out there. And then again, if you take advantage of the book, there are instructions for 20 in there, okay? All right, what time is it? Okay, we got a few moments. This is the most important thing that I'm going to share with you today, and it gets fed back to us repeatedly. It has for 12 years. Every time we do evaluations, this gets fed back to us. It's an incredibly powerful concept that very few people don't fully realize or grasp until they hear it. But this is what it is. It is to learn how to manage your divergent and convergent thinking processes. Now that sounds awfully academic. Does anybody know what those two things are? Ah, Terry, you know. All right, come here. Take the clicker. Take the clicker. Come on. Come on. That's exactly right. You know, I think in all of my years of delivering smart storming training, nobody's ever done it exactly right. So you got it just right on. That's exactly what Terry got. Thank you. My shill. Yeah, you're my shill. Okay. So Terry is exactly right. I might have to cover because I'm starting to get tired. I need a break. Divergent thinking is exactly what Terry said. That's what we think of as the brainstorming. Blue sky thinking, anything goes, this, that. I always say, you know, clowns, monkeys, balloons, whatever. I always say you add clowns or monkeys to any idea, it makes them better. It just does. So that's divergent thinking. We need to do that. Convergent thinking, conversely, is the opposite. It's when we start to consolidate our thinking, when we start to scrutinize, analyze, judge, determine what the relative value of ideas might be, right? So here it is. The key to greater idea productivity is make sure you're using the right process at the right time and in the right place. Okay, so what do we mean by that? What I mean is, when you're ready to start generating ideas, we're now ready to start coming up with solutions. This is when we want divergent thinking, right? What does it say here? Suspend all judgment. Quantity over quality. You heard that a little while ago. Go for wild, edgy ideas. Everything is possible. Anything goes, right? Anything is possible when we're in divergent thinking. Then, a little bit later, when you've finished generating ideas, and only when you've finished, we switch to convergent thinking. And again, that's that analytical process, looking at where we combine things, eliminate things, what's practical, what's not practical. How can we take separate the wheat from the chaff, if you will, to find that really gem of an idea that is in that whole mix that we came up with. But here's the big important part, folks. Do not mix the thinking processes, right? My partner Mitchell always loved to say it's like matter and antimatter. When you put them together, it's not pleasant. But isn't that what we do, individually and in groups? So this is what I think most of us do when we're generating ideas. Well, I could do that. Okay, yeah. Oh no, I don't have enough money to do that. Okay, I could do that. No, I don't know how to do that. I'm not good enough with technology. But I could do that. Maybe that's an idea. So we never get fully expanded. We go there, and then we shut down. And that really happens in a brainstorming session. Anybody who's ever participated in group brainstorming, we know, right? Hey, here's an idea, blah, blah, blah. That's stupid. We could never do that. The client would never buy that. We tried that 3 years ago. We continuously shoot ideas down as they're offered. And so what happens is we never get into that blue sky divergent thinking place because we're too busy shutting down our thoughts. So that's the thing. We want to keep them separate. We always tell the brainstorm leaders that we teach, be vigilant. At the first sign of convergent thinking entering into the divergent process, you got to shut that down. You have to stop it and redirect the conversation and get back into a divergent place. Later on, during the idea selection and evaluation process, that's when we switch to convergent thinking. So I always tell, when I'm leading a session, I always tell the people who like to shoot down the ideas, I say, don't worry, you can kill everything, but you gotta wait 20 minutes. So just hold on to all your arrows and you'll be able to shoot them all down in about 20 minutes, okay? Just for right now, just be quiet. So remember that, really, really powerful concept. And I encourage you when you're working on your own, anytime now that you're working on trying to come up with ideas or solutions or solve a problem, allow yourself a period of time to stay in the anything is possible zone, okay? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And then again, I referred to this earlier, once the idea generation process is complete, how do you know? How do you know an idea is good? Just because you like it? Does anybody remember New Coke? I think that was in the 80s. Remember New Coke? Bad idea. Nobody wanted New Coke. They liked Old Coke. And so anybody remember Clear Pepsi? Bad idea. Another bad idea, right? Clear Pepsi. People like the Pepsi Brown, apparently. So there are lots of ideas that were popular in the brainstorming session that didn't quite make it. So how do we know? How do we have some sense of assuredness that an idea can actually work? So what we do here is we establish a set of objective criteria before we start selecting ideas. So, and it's just, I'm sorry about this, guys, please forgive me. It's just a short list of objective benchmarks, characteristics, qualities that an idea should have in order to be considered viable, right? So let's say that I'm working on a project. These are just for example. You have to come up with your own. But I said, well, it's got to be innovative. It's got to solve the challenge, obviously. Why would I want to move it forward otherwise? It's got to, as we said, it's got to add benefit or value. It's got to fit within whatever budget we're working with. And it's got to be achievable. It's got to be doable, right? Teleportation is a great idea. Unfortunately, we don't know how to do it right now. So we establish those ahead of time, and then we go through our ideas, the ones that we think may have some promise, and we try to get ourselves to honestly and objectively answer the question, does it meet this criteria? Does it do this? Yes. Does it do this? Yeah. Does it do this? Not so sure. So if you put that back up, you see that idea has a score of 4. It's pretty strong. So that's great. If you do this with 4 or 5 ideas that you've come up with, now you have a more objective way of looking at it. This also puts a spotlight on how you can make this idea better, right? So we know that this idea, the one that has a score of 4, doesn't really feel like it adds more benefit or value. So I can go back to the drawing table and say, all right, now let me look at that idea again. How can I use the value compass maybe to add greater value or benefit and make it an even stronger idea than it is? So this is a really important part because the idea selection process can be at least as dysfunctional and inefficient as the idea generation process, at least. So by doing this, you add a layer of objectivity that helps you come up with, with better answers. Does that make sense? Great. Yes, okay. So does anybody have any questions on those things before I think it's probably a good time to take a break, do you think? Yeah.
One quick question.
Yes, please, Jamie.
For example, let's say, because as a speaker, as a general rule, we're either working like in a couple or two or three, like you and your partner. But as I'm going through that, and let's say that you got the space that says, it doesn't seem like it adds very much value. At what point in time would you do some more research with your past clients and or potential clients? Maybe just reach out and ask them if that adds value, because obviously it's something that you're going to be putting into a program, or something you're going to put into keynote, or something you're going to put into some of your other offerings. At what point would you go do that?
Absolutely. Well, I think I would probably, first of all, that approach, that strategy, I think is really strong. A few things. First of all, it gives you a touch point with your past clients or whatever, that you can go back, talk to them about something reasonable. People typically really like it when you ask them for their opinion or their advice on something. It's a great way to reconnect with a client and say, we had such a good experience like this. But you don't want to overdo it, right? You don't want to do that every week, because then they're like, is Henderson calling it? And also social media, by the way, provides us a really easy way to do that with a bigger audience, right? So we do that all the time. My partner has been doing it a lot on a side project that he's working on. Just post questions out there and get answers. That's a way to begin engaging people. But I would probably do it only when you have an idea that you think has some real promise and some real merit. I wouldn't just do it gratuitously, because then it's going to feel gratuitous. So once you've generated ideas and you come up and say, what, I think we might have something here. Let me test the waters here. Let me do a little research and see if it resonates with anybody. Yes, Bob.
Doing all this. I hope you would get to a little bit for us about behind the curtain, about what's been happening in your business and what you see now, what you see moving forward, not so much on your material and what you do expertise-wise, but what's going on with you guys, and what do you see the future like that might help us figure out where our businesses are all going? Hopefully you'll get in a couple of minutes about that. I would be very interested.
I'm glad you asked. I wasn't necessarily going to, but I will. So why don't we do that now? So it is just about 1:45. Why don't we take about 15 minutes? Is that good for you? Why don't we take about 15 minutes, try to get back right at 11, if not a couple minutes earlier. And I'll start, Bob, by talking about that a little bit, okay? Great, thank you, everybody. Thanks. Okay, let's get started, please. Okay, Zoom folks, you're back. I hope so. Good to see you. Yes, I see a thumbs up there. All right. So Jeremy, can we put the slides back up for a second? So we're going to do our third technique now. Who here, it works. Who here has ever done a mind map? Yeah, we have a few hands, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of our Zoom people have probably done a mind map. Anybody? Yeah. Okay, I thought I don't use mind maps a whole lot. There are instructions in the book and all that. But I thought mind mapping would be a really good exercise to do, considering the topic today and where we are, and a quick, sort of interesting way to get a look at your business and where you think it might be able to go, or where, again, using your intuition, your instinct, where you think it might go. So, mind mapping gives you this sort of diagrammatic look at of ideas that come off of a core concept. So that, for those of you who know what it is, I know you know that, but those of you who may not have done one, you start with sort of a core, basic, foundational idea, and then free associate off of that at various levels to see where you might go. And then you take a look at it and look at the entire map and start to look for possibilities for combining things, for maybe new ideas, inspiration for new ideas that might come out of the collection of ideas that you came up with that you wouldn't have thought of before. So this is an example that we often use. What if you were trying to come up with activities that people might enjoy? So we'd start our mind map. There we go. Maybe we put the word enjoyment in the middle of our page. By the way, for this exercise, please have a large sheet of paper, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. If you don't have enough of your table, again, there's a bunch on the table back there, but just make sure you have an 8.5 by 11, okay? So we start off with putting enjoyment in a little circle in the center of your page. And then you think about enjoyment and what does that mean to you? What kind of things come to mind for you when you think about having fun, enjoyment? So you might come up with sports, art, exercise. I can see so much better with my glasses, aren't you pleased? Travel, movies. So you see, right? What does entertainment make you think of? And then you look at each one of those little spokes off of the wheel and say, all right, now when I think about exercise, what do I think of? Well, I think of swimming and bicycling and running. And when I think of vacation, I think of Europe and Hawaii and going camping, right? And then you can take it even further. You can make these as big as you want. We've done them with clients sometime where we do group mind maps and literally put them on a huge whiteboard and they go on forever. But then you take each one of those and you can look at them and branch out even further. Now, we're not going to go that long today for the sake of time, but we're going to try this a little bit with your business. But let's say, then how do you interpret your mind map? Right? You just use, again, your intuition. You look over that map and you look for possibilities or new ideas or insights or connections or themes that come out of that collection. So you might see something over here that goes interesting with something over on the other side, right? Just skip over that for the moment. So for instance, if you look at the mind map, the example we just did, you know, we came up with ideas like yoga and meditation classes in museums, right? Because we had yoga and meditation, we had museums, and then that idea comes to mind. Film festivals for romantic singles, right? Comedy golf tournaments, whatever that means. But you start to see ways that you could combine things. So it's really kind of a cool visual, as you said, diagrammatic way of putting a bunch of random thoughts down and then looking for ways to connect those. Does that make sense? So we're going to try it. We're going to make one for you related to your business. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Take that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. You can use it horizontal or vertical, whichever format you prefer working in. I would encourage you to try to work relatively small so that you have room to fill up the page with your ideas. But I would write in the beginning, either you could put your name, if you have a business name, like I might put Smart Storming, or I might put Keith Harmeyer, or I might just put business, okay? So I want you to do that. And then once you get that started, here's what I want you to do. And by the way, I didn't change all the folks, so please don't look at what it says, but I'm just reminding you where to go. So what do you do in your business? When you see my business, what does that make you think of? What do you do? What are your offerings? What might you do? What could you do? What would you like to do? What do you think of when you think of your business? And it might not just have to do with offerings. It might be finances. It might be fun. It might be mental stimulation. It might be helping others. Whatever you think of when you think of your business, put at least a few spokes out of that center circle, okay? And we don't have to do too many at this level because there aren't that many to do. So we'll just take a minute or so. Your business, and if you don't really have a full business, an active business yet, what would you imagine your business is doing? What would you like your business to be? My favorite part of my business is teaching, is helping people understand things that they never understood before. That would be key for me. Okay. Finish that up. And now, hopefully you have a few. Now ask yourself, how could you deliver even greater value or benefit? By the way, if that prompt question doesn't get you going, whatever you think. But look at each one of those initial spokes off of the center circle and ask yourself, what does that make me think of? How could I do that or offer that or incorporate that in a way that would deliver greater value or benefit to my desired customer or client? Now, this will take a little bit longer, but try to do at least one branch off of that initial spoke. And if you can think of 2 or 3, fantastic. It's 11:11. Think about each of those aspects of your business. And then just what ideas pop into your mind when you think about that word or that phrase or that expression or that concept. And again, when you're doing this on your own, you can spend as much time with this as you like. I've done mind maps that I do over a course of a week. And I still see pens moving. Okay, try to come up with a few more. And again, we have limited time today, so I'm going to stop you at some point. But you can do as much of this as you can. And take your mind maps home with you, please. And keep working on them. And then once you get that level done, I'm not even going to give you a prompt question. I'm just going to ask you to go around to all those outer spokes and just see what pops into your head. Anything. Even if it seems kind of bizarre or unrelated or inexplicable. Go ahead and write it down. Why not? Anything that pops into your head. As I said, it doesn't even have to make sense. It might just be a gut feeling that you have. Now let's just take a couple more minutes. Looks like Jim Barber is still writing. Hey, Jim. Okay, maybe 30 more seconds. See if you can come up with one or two more things on those outer spokes. Start finishing up. I'll just tell you, mind mapping. There's a guy named Tony Buzan who is credited with I don't think he's credited with inventing mind mapping, but he's certainly credited with popularizing it. And he wrote a book many years ago called Mind Mapping. And it's very interesting if you want to read it, if you want to learn more about this. This is a very powerful technique. There are people who have entire businesses based on mind mapping. They go out and work with clients to do mind maps. You know that, Anne? Oh, you do? Yeah, excellent. So it is a very, very powerful technique. Okay, so first of all, hold up your mind map towards me, because I just want to see how we did. Okay, you got quite a few, right? Yeah, okay, good. Oh, some of you have quite a few. All right, great. So now, excellent, good job. How about you, Zoom people? Oh, look, ooh, Helen, beautiful, wow. All right, and remember, keep your mind maps because you can continue working on them later. Very nice. Thank you, Jim, Helen, thank you. Okay, so now, I'm gonna, oh no, we're not gonna share yet. I'm gonna ask you to take a minute, and this is when you interpret your map. So I want you to take a look at your map and say, what do I see here? Where is my map pointing me? Just give it a scan. Look randomly throughout. Look at the different words and see what pops up. You might want to put what ideas come to you on a separate sheet of paper so you don't clutter up your mind map, or so get another little sheet of paper. But start to look where you see interesting combinations, unusual combinations, or just a word that inspires an idea that you hadn't thought of before. And see if you can jot down at least 2 or 3 or 4 ideas. Look at that map. Remember stocking your pond? Think of your map now as a way of stocking your pond with ideas, concepts, notions, that you can begin to put together into more tangible, more substantive directions that you could pursue. I can actually see you now. Fantastic. I kind of liked it the other way. Where's my contact lens? Okay.
You look at least 3 times smarter.
And I wore my cute glasses too, not my ugly. I see even better with my ugly glasses, but there's too much vanity for that, my friend. Okay, a couple more minutes. See if you can find something in there. Doesn't have to be good, quote unquote. Doesn't have to be something you can do right now. Everything is figure outable. That's one of our new mantras in our business. Everything is figure outable, and I am going to get to your question. Promise. Okay. Bass player thought. Okay, so as you start finishing up, who has something they would like to share? Anybody have an idea that came from the mind map? I hope somebody has something. But who has something that came out of that mind map? Okay, Anne.
One of the things I have is a workshop, and then as I drill down and talk about what I teach, and I realized that I have a book that I wrote called Daily Date Myself. It has journaling, a lot of the things we're discussing in it, and I just kept drilling down in it.
Nice. So is that something that you hadn't necessarily thought of before? I like your hair, by the way. That's great. Good for you. So that's great. Power of a mind map right there. And put 2 things down that resonated for her and saw a connection where she could bring them together. That's great. Anybody else have something like that? Rosemary. Oh, sorry, Rachel. Rachel, this would be a good time to use the handheld.
I do collage work on the side, and I just found an opportunity to combine my creation of collages as a teaching tool. So
that's
was
wonderful.
a moment.
And you know, when I think about the work that I do, what we're doing here today, collage, right, as a metaphor for what we're talking about is fantastic. So you could take that and turn that into a learning tool. That's an excellent idea. Who else has something? Anybody? Any of the Zoom group? Do you have anything? You can unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, I can share. From my mind map, what's clear to me is there's things I'm doing a lot of, and there's things I could be doing that I'm not doing, some of which I'm not that interested in, but I probably should do more of, like maybe having mastermind groups. You know, you reach a point in your career where you become not just a subject matter expert, but somebody who is looked to share their expertise with other colleagues. So I should be doing more of that. I don't blog. I don't have my own podcast, and I wonder whether I should. So what it's raising here are where I'm putting all my energy and where I've got question marks around. Maybe I could do more.
Excellent, Helen. I was going to say, I often use mind maps as an organizational tool, as opposed to necessarily or specifically a brainstorming tool. I use it as an organization. And yes, you can do the same thing like with an outline, but an outline is linear, right? It goes from point A to point B. So the great thing about a mind map is that it's random. So you can look at that page and start to see connections of things. But exactly what you said, Helen, one of the ways I use it is to sort of take an inventory of what I'm doing, what I could be doing, what I'm not doing and might benefit from doing. And then when I have it all laid out there on the map, it's much easier to see how I might be able to sort of piggyback things so that to make some of those things more effective or easier to accomplish. So thank you, Helen, for sharing that. That's a great insight. Anybody else have one? Rachel?
Yeah, I have a chapter book that I keep working on. It has to do with, cases that, again, medical, legal cases. And I stopped by just telling the story, which is usually like 3 or 4 pages. But then I thought, well, I can go one more step farther and actually, draw out what are the key things in that story and how do you, apply it to what they're doing in the hospital, and then what's the final outcome, again, basing it back on minimum expectations, instead of leaving that to them to identify what they are. I can tell them more specifically what it is and apply it to there. So taking it one step further.
Interesting. So that's nice, taking the content that you're creating and then looking for ways to take out sort of key gems of information and value for them that you can share in different ways. Excellent. Great example of how to use a mind map. Anybody else have something? Any more? Okay, before we move on, what do you think of mind mapping as a tool? Can you see a value to using this sometimes, particularly if you're sitting down to start strategizing about a particularly different direction in your business and to how to sort of explore what the possibilities might be? Okay, again, instructions for that are in the book if you want to learn more about it, but I think it's another important technique to add to your toolkit. And they're widely used. Actually, I put this up here because I prefer doing it digitally sometimes. There are some excellent software programs and apps that you can use to do this on your devices. For years, I've been using one called FreeMind, which is an open source tool. It's free, and it's actually pretty good. And then the app, Simple Mind, that I have on my phone. It's a little bit difficult to do them on a phone, but you can do it. But you can certainly do it on a tablet. That's available iOS. I think it's probably for Android as well. It's been around a long time. So there are technology tools that you can use to help you do these. Okay. So mind mapping is very cool. Before we get into this, I'm gonna answer Bob's question as best I can. And Bob, if I don't answer it accurately or the way you would hope, please let me know. But what are we seeing in our business? Because we have been dealing with some pretty big companies and all that. I think the biggest thing we've been experiencing, Bob, is that it's kind of ironic because we find that our clients are sort of getting back to basics because they're having to reinvent the way they do what they do. And all of our clients so far, we've had a couple that they have, a skeleton crew in the office, or, they might go into the office once a day, once every couple of weeks, but for the most part, our clients are still working at home. We recently, Under Armour told us that they had extended the time frame that they believed that they were going to be working remotely. And I believe first of the year is what they told us. That's the plan right now. And I think they were originally thinking September 1. They've now pushed that back to Jan 1. And who knows, right? I mean, again, we have no idea. This could go on another month. It could go on another year. Who knows? But they're now realizing that they don't kind of know where they are, and they're floundering a little bit. So what we hear is, the challenges that they have keeping people engaged, collaborating effectively, working together in as productive a way as they did when they were together in the same room. They're looking for ways to solve that problem. And so that's obviously great for us because it's right up our alley. But those are the types of things we're hearing. We are hearing that they're getting a lot of pressure from upstairs. I don't mean heaven, from the C-suite, a little closer than heaven. They're getting a lot of pressure for ramping up productivity, for making sure that people are productive and doing what they're supposed to do and not just playing with the dog and the baby, right? And how do you do that? How do you do that effectively?
Have you noticed anything different about their propensity to bring in outside third-party consultants, speakers, trainers, experts like us? Have you noticed anything different about that? Or is that, do you feel that coming back in some way or remaining steady?
So I don't know that I can speak to that, universally because, we're not out there surveying and questioning, but I can speak to it to the people that we've been working with. And I think that, more so than I think ever, all of a sudden, Bob, in, I guess, October, almost a year ago, late October, somewhere around then, it's like they came back to life. It was, we started getting calls and emails like, oh, what's going on? People, we thought they were gone forever. And they weren't. So my sense, and the few clients that we've had the opportunity to work with since then, I think they're very open and they're looking for people who can help them because they're realizing that they don't have the resources internally to do what they need to do. They're very good. Our clients were very good at doing what they did before the pandemic started. And they now realize that the systems and processes they had in place are not working for them anymore, or certainly not as well as they used to be.
So maybe safe to say that they're coming back and they're going to be using outside people, but they are going to be more selective about who they use.
I believe that's true, and it's certainly that's been our experience. So I think they're looking for partners who they can trust. Sorry, Rachel. That would be a very good time to use the handhelds. I think they're looking for partners that they believe have expertise, that they can trust, and that they're willing to give their money over to help them do this. I don't think they're just going out and hiring anybody they can find. I don't believe that.
At one time in our world, that was true. I gotta fill a slot. I'm gonna hire a speaker. And I have
Exactly.
a body that I can do that with. And I think just hitchhiking what you're saying, I think that's become more selective, and that money is still there. The need is even greater. And so if we view that equally, the opportunity in front of us is going to be incredible moving forward.
I will share this, Bob, that's related to what you just said. Our biggest and longest term client has been Omnicom Media Group. It's the media division of Omnicom Group, which is one of the biggest marketing agency holding companies in the world. We've trained thousands of people in there for 67 years. We always dealt pretty much exclusively with their learning and development team. We were a vendor that they liked and that they trusted. And we were popular. Once we got into the system, people wanted our training, but they were filling slots. They're L&D people, and they needed to spend X number of money and have X number of external people come in and do training, and we were one of their preferred vendors, and that was great. We did one small project for them a months ago, but that's not who we're dealing with. The head of global branding at Under Armour contacted me and said, you guys worked here before. I didn't work with you, but I've heard about you. We need you. So we're now going to the source. We're not going through, the middleman is not coming to us anymore, who just needs to fill a slot. We're going to people who have a real serious need. They realize they have a need and they see us as somebody that can help.
Good for you.
Yeah. So if that adds to that, again, I don't know if that's everywhere, but that's certainly the experience we're having. We're hearing more and more that there's real need, and they're kind of desperate to find people that can help them. And I think that it doesn't matter, it kind of doesn't matter what you do as long as it relates to their business. I think people are experiencing that on all different levels. Yes, Laura?
The groups that you've worked with and you're working with now, like Omnicom, are the people that you are working with, I'm talking about like the groups that you're working with, the same people, or are there a lot of new faces in that crowd?
That's a good question. Actually, the projects we've been doing have primarily been with different teams than we've worked with in the past. We've trained those people, right? So I would say that we're seeing a lot of different people. We always ask, by the way, we get to know the people we're working with. So lots of people have been brought in. I mean, there's a lot of shifting going on these days. So I do think there's a lot of new people. We have done some repeat stuff actually with people we've worked with before, but we're hearing, I've been with the company for 2 months. I've been with the company for 6 months. I just joined 2 weeks ago, and this is so awesome. I've heard about smart storming. I can't wait to, we've heard a lot of that. So there's just a lot of shifting going on, right? People have left, they're going to new jobs. So I think there's a restructuring of talent to tasks that's going out there in the business world that, again, is an opportunity for us if we learn how to leverage it.
Keith, as part of what you hear from them, a difficulty to find the right people.
The difficulty to find the right people in order to execute what they're trying to do. Is that why you're working with different teams?
Yeah, so yes, James, we do hear that. We do hear that to some degree. Not the kind of thing that we get into a lot. So our clients don't necessarily discuss that with us, but sort of anecdotally when we're having conversations in the early stages where we're planning, we'll hear that, right? So we get the head of global branding at Under Armour would say, I've got 5 people who are just like nailing it, but I got these other 5. They were great in the office, but I don't feel like they're really as engaged as they could be. So yeah, and yes, and we're looking for good people. We've lost 3 people and we can't find people to replace them. So there's just so much instability right now that, if we can provide some answers and some stability and some hope that they're going to come out of this in a better place, then I think it's an opportunity.
Just kind of a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
Of those teams that are working remotely, are you doing any work to help them stimulate the ideas of how they can better work remotely? Because for a lifetime, they probably haven't done it.
Right.
And now not only is the company transitioning, but they're transitioning into learning to do that as well.
Big reason that they're coming to us now, right? So yes, they're aware of what we teach that was applicable, whether they were in the same room or wherever, but they realize now that those skills, the things that we're doing here, we adapt them obviously to remote. We do nothing in our programs anymore that require people being together. We used to have people work in teams, table teams, you know, lots of interaction. The reason we're not doing that today, working in teams, is because we have virtual as well. So I wanted to make it individual. But now they realize that they can't do that. So they've come to us and say, how can we do what we used to do live? How can we do it virtually in a way? How can we do that? And so we use breakout rooms, and we do all sorts of whatever we can do and figure out to do. We give them tasks offline for when we come back to another session that they have to do as groups. Anything we can do to sort of force them to engage with each other and do it in a way that they enjoy and are as productive. That's what we're doing in the training. So we've adapted the training. By the way, that's part of the deal, right? We have to adapt. We've had to tweak all of our programs to make them work and make them relevant, not just that they work, but that they're relevant to the new landscape, that they're relevant to working remotely, and that they actually add value in that respect as well. So we got to do the work, all right? We can't just repackage what we did before. We have to think of a way to make it more meaningful and more relevant in this context. Yeah, I mean, we always do a little customizing, Bob, you know, because it's, you know, it's just because you have to. But I think it's really more tweaking or revamping our programs to, you know, I said before, if you're not relevant, you're dead. So we need to be relevant in this stuff. So, by the way, I have no problem saying it. It's one of my big beefs that I've had over the last year and a half with the speaker community. I have heard very few original ideas come out of the speaker community over the last year and a half at NSA calls or anything of that nature. I haven't attended all of them, so there may have been some really good, valuable stuff. But what I've mostly heard is people saying what they've been saying for the last 10 years and saying it again. So, you know, just do that. And that's meaningless to me. I want to hear people talk about now and the world we're in now and what the relevance and the importance of that is and how it's going to impact my business. So, and I think that's what our clients want to hear too. They don't want just the same old thing. And by the way, as I said, a lot of the basics, a lot of the fundamentals are always going to be there, right? But we need to talk to people about the thing that's hurting them right now. And it's this environment. So I hope that the speaking community is going to catch up and start to share things that are working, that are helping them, that are more than just, you know, the obsession with Zoom has just driven me crazy. It's like all people want to talk about is how to add a second or a third or an eighth camera to Zoom, and that's all fine. That's good stuff. But there's a lot more to being engaging in front of a group and over camera. So, all right, Dave, a little more. I love the camera, and the camera loves me. So yeah, I just, you know, be relevant and be greater value or benefit. That's part of what innovation is about. That's the most important part. So make sure you're adding value or benefit to what was there before, not just saying the same thing over and over again. Does that make sense? Any other questions about that? Yeah, Bob.
I think that's a great concept.
Thank you. I think it's a great concept when you talk about adding value or benefit. I think a part of the big part of the disconnect now is teaching people how to add value, but also teaching those of us who are looking for that value added, let's say you're an employer looking for that value added, teaching people what we're looking for and knowing how to express exactly what it is you're looking for in terms of value, because sometimes you know what you want, but it's hard to describe. You're looking for an individual who can provide, you know, being able to have video capabilities, being able to innovate, being able to be a self-starter and be creative and have their own ideas without you sitting there going, you know what, I would like for you to try to figure out how to be willing and looking for people to bring you ideas. And you said it earlier, not you're waiting for your customer to tell you what you need or what they need, instead of that customer or that client coming to you and giving you these different things that you didn't know you need.
Excellent. Good point. And that's what we're doing here today, is exactly to help you do that. to help you. You're going to play what if. I'll use that expression a few times. You're going to play what if about your business, but you want to do that for your client's business. Hey, client, what if I could help you do this? And they're like, what? Wow, you mean really? Working on Zoom and working in this environment and everybody's at home? You can help me do that? Well, I want to hear more about it. What if I could help you do something that you don't think is possible right now? Because you will have done the imaginative work to figure out things that you might potentially be able to help them do. Okay, great. I hope that helped. These are just a few key principles. In our brainstorm leadership, they show up as rules. We actually have rules. If you don't like rules, you can call them tips, but we recommend that brainstorm leaders, team leaders that are facilitating brainstorms actually post a set of rules in the room. So rules of participation and guidelines. But in this program, we just sort of do it as tips, sort of best practices, if you will, different from the ones before. So you've seen them show up earlier when we talked about divergent thinking, but these are some of the things that we recommend just in general to be a better idea generator and problem solver. Postpone judgment, and notice that I say postpone. While you're generating ideas, I've made this point before with divergent and convergent thinking, but postpone all judgment. Do not judge ideas until it's time to evaluate them later. We need to give ideas time to breathe. We need to get as many ideas on the table as possible. So no judgment until it's time to evaluate. There's no such thing as a bad idea. Is there anybody in the room that would like to debate that with me? Actually, we don't have time to debate it but there's always at least one or two people in the room that's ridiculous. They're all bad. But the point, and in fact, we did a blog post on this. We posted this question on LinkedIn and got dozens and dozens of responses. People were passionate. Some people told us we were crazy. Then other people said, no, you're absolutely right. It was remarkable to see the range of responses we got to that. What we mean, and by the way, most people who work in the space that I work in say the same thing, right? No such thing as a bad idea. Again, what does that mean? It means that while we're generating ideas, we're not going to label anything as bad, right? I said it before. We actually use a technique where we intentionally come up with bad ideas, because even the worst idea can lead to a great idea. I can't tell you how many times I've been in high-level brainstorming sessions and somebody has the courage to say something that's absolutely idiotic. I mean, just stupid. But then somebody else in the room says, yeah, I don't know about that, but maybe if we just changed this about it, we could do it. And it turns into a big, game-changing, innovative idea. But if somebody had shot that idea down right away, we would have never gotten there. So let those bad-sounding ideas live. Give them a little bit of time. Okay. It's working pretty well, Jeremy. Huh? It's nice working with a percussionist. Go for quantity, not quality. We talked about that before. I'll explain it a little bit more now. If you come up with 100 ideas, and that is not at all an exaggeration of what you're capable of doing. I've done smart storming sessions with a group this size and left the room with 700 ideas after half a day. No exaggeration, right? You can come up with 100 ideas. If you do, I promise you that 2 or 3 or 4 of those ideas are going to be good. You're going to have at least a handful of ideas in that group of 100 that you can carry forward and explore further. If you come up with 2, 3, or 4 ideas, the odds of all of them being worthwhile are pretty slim. So we want to come up with a lot of ideas. Linus Pauling, famous medical researcher, the father of vitamin C, they call him, he had a famous quote. He said, the way to come up with a good idea is to come up with lots of ideas and then get rid of the ones that don't work. That's how you come up with ideas. So that's what we idea people, like the folks in advertising. I was basically Don Draper, if you watch Mad Men, except not nearly as handsome, and I didn't drink and smoke as much as he did. But you just come up with ideas all day long. I used to work for a creative director. He'd have to call 8 o'clock meeting, and we were expected to come in with pages of ideas. And then he'd close the meeting and say, okay, show up, come back again at 3 with more. And we'd have to go back to our office and come up with more ideas. And you know what? Out of hundreds of ideas, one would be chosen to move forward. So you need to have that kind of ideas are easy to come up with. I've shown you that today. You can come up with dozens of ideas. Keep coming up with ideas and you'll find the gem, all right? Quantity, not quality. The quality part comes in the evaluation and selection. Go for wild, crazy, edgy ideas. Why? Even if you're a conservative person by nature, go for crazy ideas. because that's where innovation takes place. Innovation doesn't take place inside of our comfort zone, it takes place outside. You never know how far you can go until you go too far, right? Go too far, be bold, be crazy. I always say, if you get 4 or 5 people in a room, all of whom are willing to say something really stupid, magic will happen. But they have to be willing to go out there. They have to be willing to risk it and risk embarrassment or whatever. So go for crazy stuff. It's much easier to pull back an idea that's too crazy than to take a bland vanilla idea and make it interesting. That's really hard. So go for the crazy, audacious ideas. Say the things that are silly and stupid. Add monkeys, add balloons. Always help. Okay. Be fearless. Don't be afraid to fail quickly and often. You may have heard this before. Fail quickly, fail often. Now, my friend Steve Shapiro, who's a Hall of Fame speaker in NSA, he happens to be one of the top innovation speakers, keynote speakers in the business. He and I gotten to be friends. You would think that we wouldn't be, but we did. I sort of saw him, reached out to him, and we've now had lunch several times, and we talk shop. It's great fun. Steve is a big, he said, that's ridiculous. I hate that expression. We don't want to fail. So that's why I put the word fail. Could you put it back out there for a second? That's why I put the word fail in quotes, because in case Steve Shapiro comes in, I say, Steve, you see, I have it in quotes. That means I don't really mean fail. So what do we mean by fail quickly and often? Of course, we don't want to fail. Nobody wants to fail. We want to succeed. But temporary failures, interim failures, are opportunities to learn. And there's a wonderful video that SpaceX has. It's on YouTube. If you look, if you search on YouTube for SpaceX landing failures, it's fantastic. It has some kind of funny music, and it's just one clip after another of rockets crashing and exploding and falling into the ocean. And then, of course, it finally lands, as we know they've done successfully. But when you look at the millions and millions of dollars that they wasted by learning how to get better and better and better, they had so many failures, but they ultimately ended up with success. So don't be afraid of that. I told you about Under Armour, the rapid prototyping. That's the whole point. Try something, get in there, see if it works. If it doesn't work, great. Now you know what doesn't work, make it better. I'll talk about that a little bit at the end, okay? So don't be afraid of that. Yes.
Just wanted to suggest, when you use the word millions that they wasted, I just want to suggest invested.
Absolutely.
Millions that they invested.
Absolutely.
And it shifts the mind to see the possibilities of what's possible.
Absolutely, and I agree. And I also did wasted. That means I didn't really mean it. I agree with you 100%. Okay, what time is it? Okay, all right, we're good. We're going to do one last technique. We're going to do it really fast. I did this once during my year. It's just one of my favorite techniques, and it's so much fun. And I thought it would be a really good one to end up with. It's called channeling genius. You might want to use your handout, the channeling genius handout there. And this is basically how it works. I'm going to give you a challenge. It's a pretty broad challenge. It's a good closing challenge. And then I'm going to ask you to choose one of the geniuses on that sheet. And you can look through them really quickly. And then the idea is that you are, by the way, you don't have to use a sheet. If there's somebody else that comes to mind that's like a hero of yours or somebody that you think is particularly smart or innovative, please use them. There's plenty of them. And then you're going to, just for a few minutes, imagine you are that person, right? So let's say you pick Walt Disney. You're now Walt Disney working on your challenge. What would Walt Disney do, right? What would Steve Jobs do if he were facing this? It's a really interesting way of putting yourself into a different mindset with a different point of view and perspective than you might have on your own. And so you pretend you're that person and come up with ideas. And then, of course, you can pick more and go around and switch and go to others. Because of time, because we're getting a little tight on time, we're just going to do 2, all right? But I just want you to see what this is like. So you'll pick your own genius, and again, from the sheet or somebody else. On the sheet, you have Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Oprah Winfrey, Walt Disney, Lady Gaga, and Elon Musk, okay? Or you could choose Richard Branson or Jeff Bezos, who will eventually own the entire galaxy. Whoever you want to use, okay? So here is, everybody's trying to get something to write, and write these down, and pick your genius. And here is your challenge. In what ways can you make your speaking business bigger, better, and more innovative than ever before, and at the same time, better serve the needs of your clients in this new reality that we're in? In what ways can you make your speaking business bigger, better, and more innovative than ever before? This is where you're taking the opportunities that are here, not the challenges, but the opportunities and using them to your advantage. How could you do that? Pick one and go. Just a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Whoever you want. How would that genius do it? Lady Gaga would certainly do it differently from Walt Disney. Stephanie Germanotti. That's Lady Gaga. What types of things does your genius do to make an impact? How do they deliver value to their audiences, to their customers, to their clients? They had your challenge. How would they face it? How would they approach it? Whatever comes to mind. Some of them might take a softer approach. Some of them would take an edgier and more aggressive approach. One more minute. Okay, and when you finish up whatever idea you're on, pick another genius. Pick another one. And ideally, if you can, pick one that's different from the one that you used first. And again, you can go outside the list. We sometimes use the Terminator, Mother Teresa, Pinocchio, Keith Harmeyer. Don't use Keith Harmeyer, believe me. He's exhausted. How would your other genius do it differently? And what does it feel like to shift your mindset from being genius 1 to being genius 2? How does that feel? Do you actually feel different inside when you're thinking about it? Couple more minutes. What's something your genius might do that you would never have imagined doing yourself? Even if you wouldn't do it, what would they do? No such thing as a bad idea. One more minute. I might actually be able to finish on time. Okay, finish up whatever idea you're working on. And Rachel, this would be a great time to use the handheld mic. Uh-oh. Oh, I went forward. Okay. Why don't we share? Who has something to share? Oh, Laura, your hand went right up. All right, so who's your genius?
Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, Jimmy Buffett. I'm going to see him in December. It was my birthday present.
I don't know why he popped into my head. But as I'm thinking about my business, I love that there's a community, right? Everybody associates themselves as a parrot head, right? So how could I create a community where everybody associates themselves in a certain way and tap into their emotions to do that? Songs tap into emotions. And in doing that, how do I create content then that resonates, pun intended, and then develop songs to teach the topics, have an annual gathering that's like a concert where everybody comes together to share on however that gets evolved, so that I'm helping everyone sing their success.
Excellent. What a great example of how to use this technique. Excellent. Excellent. I'm a little bit of a parrot. So, by the way, just as food for, just added to that, if you know anything about Jimmy Buffett, he is a ruthless businessman and controls every aspect of his business and makes sure that it is exactly in alignment with his brand every time anything is done.
You've got Margaritaville, like all the streams of revenue is like what came to mind. So he's got Margaritaville, the resort, Margaritaville, the product line from whether it's clothing or food, the restaurants. And so I was thinking, how could I use everything he's done and apply that to my business?
Great idea. Excellent. I was personally responsible for a bathroom he added onto one of his homes, I'm pretty sure. Personally. Anybody else have something they want to share from this? Yes.
Thank you. I'd say I chose Steve Jobs. And what I would have done is created an app that is attached to, you know, the iPhone, iPad, iMac, all of those different products that are already out there that opens up as a part of the suite immediately when you get it. And also, whenever you click on Siri, you ask the question, you know, sometimes you'll say Siri this or Siri that. Siri would then reference sometimes, have you thought about, you know, whatever our company is. And I would also hire other professionals so that you touch every topic, right? Because some of us may do professional development, maybe politics, maybe whatever. But if you've hired a number of professionals under the same brand, then you are actually able to hit every different aspect when someone asks a question, because it becomes the biggest product in the world. And then on top of that, you know, you've got on your phone Apple News updates. Well, I would include an aspect of professional development in that Apple News update as well.
Excellent. Great idea. Good job.
Harmeyer Group is represented.
Woo, there we go. Dr. Helen has something. Dr. Helen.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I know that Microsoft's already there, but my hero is Richard Branson. And I believe that the future of speaking is hologram, that we will be able to go to a studio in Fort Lauderdale and be speaking in Tokyo, in Japan, for example, and that there'll be simultaneous translation. So there will be no barriers to communicating across languages. And that's where I see this going. So that will solve the issue of the pandemic for sure, because we can work from home in a very different way with huge outreach.
Very good, Helen. I agree with you. I mean, some of us saw, you know, that technology is developing now, and we've seen the demo a year ago, so that I forgot what speaker it was that did it, but it was pretty remarkable to see them interacting with themselves on stage. That was pretty cool. I said it before, I'll say it again. Holograms, virtual reality, we're just going to be seeing a lot of that stuff. Anybody else want to share something before we close up? I do. Thank you, Dr. Helen. Okay, great. So fun technique, right? I love it. It's one of my favorites. There are a lot of these techniques that are a lot of fun and sort of playful, and that makes them, I think, even better. So Jeremy? Go. Oh, that's okay. What's that? Oh, Mike Rayburn. That's right. Mike Rayburn, the guitar player. Who does a keynote, by the way, on what if? It's kind of. Oh, you're using hologram as well? Okay. So before I close up, just a reminder, Keith free gifts. Please, I urge you to take advantage of it. And again, as I said, no newsletter subscription. I'm an NSA professional speaker. So, but please do that. And certainly the book, you know, make use of that book. I think you'll enjoy it. At least skim through it and see what's there. I think you might find some stuff that's interesting. So, so now what, right? So we've been here for a few hours, and hopefully I've at least shown you the possibility of what you can do with your mind, your creativity, and your innovative thinking abilities in terms of being able to look at your business and your clients' businesses looking forward at a time when things are a moving target, right? We don't know from day to day when we're going to go back to the office, if we're going to go back to the office, how many live events will come back. We just don't know. So we have to be zigging and zagging and course correcting all the time. And these are the tools you can use to do that. So hopefully I've opened your mind to that. But what do you do from this point on? Well, there's a concept that we talk about in our business called everyday innovating. You know, our goal, our mission in SmartStorming, really, besides teaching people the tools and helping them, what we really try to do is simplify and demystify this notion of creativity and innovation. What does it really mean in a business context? How can we get past those insecurities about our creative abilities? And so this notion of everyday innovating is really pretty simple. It's the mindset that we believe innovators have. It's very easy. Who said it before? Oh, it's you were talking about the statement that you heard about. Please remind me what it was again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we want to fix everything, right? We want to fix this. Remember my statement about the iPhone. So first, identify something that isn't working or isn't working as well as it could be in your business. Or let's just say it another way, something that you want to improve or something that you want to add that wasn't there before, okay? And then, and remember, don't limit this just to your product and service offerings. Yes, of course you want to be innovating those, but think about other aspects of your business. How you deal with client relationships, communication, technology, your entire business model, anything, right? You want to expand your geographic reach. How are you going to do that? All of these things are open to innovation. Anything goes. Identify something and then play this game of what if that we've been playing here today. Break out your SmartStorming book, get a few techniques, and start generating ideas for how to make that thing better or how to create it for the very first time. And then take action. Remember what I said, don't be afraid to fail. Rapid prototype. Once you come up with an idea that you think has some merit and has some value, give it a try. Do it on a small scale. Test it out. Do a test market. Test it with your clients, as James asked before. Right? Give it a try. And then, very simply, rinse and repeat. Take a look at what you tried, what worked, what didn't work, and go back to step one. All right, that didn't work. How can I make that better? Come up with ideas, give it a try, repeat that cycle. Very, very simple. Repeat it a few times, and you will come up with a better, more innovative solution. That's everyday innovating. And I believe it's the way great innovators approach their life and approach their day. I argue that Amazon is not an innovative online retailer. It's not an online retailer that happens to be innovative. They're an innovation company that happens to work in the online retail space. Google is not just an innovative search engine. They're an innovation company that happens to have started, and certainly not stayed, in the search engine space. Be an innovator first who happens to work in your space, and you're going to continuously stay ahead of the game. Adopt that daily mindset, okay? Everybody can do it, but you have to do it. It's really very simple. And now one last tip that we always share in our training, and that is, and hopefully you did today, at least a little bit at times, watching me try to read, have fun. We always tell all of our clients, this should be the most fun you have in your business. Now look, in our business, we get to do this, and this is kind of fun too, to get in front of an audience, get in front of a group and share what we have to share. But next to that, the most fun you should have in your business is when you get to sit down and play. This is when you get to experiment, you get to tinker, you get to try things that you never tried before, you get to imagine. It's great fun, but you have to approach it that way. We always say approach this work as play with purpose. And if you do that, you're going to have much, much better outcomes. Okay? So, I asked you earlier in the day, are you creative? I'm going to ask you again. Are you creative, like batshit crazy creative, like Elon Musk? Let's see. Of course, you all are. You have everything it takes, I promise you, and you demonstrated that for yourselves today. You have everything it takes to do this. There are lots of people out there in the world that you can learn from, and I encourage you, learn from them, work with them, hire coaches, do all of those things. But the number one guru for your business is right here inside your head, and I encourage you to turn to that guru first, because that's the one that's going to make you most successful. Thank you very much for listening.
Keith, thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank
I've learned so much from Keith. I've heard him speak before, but I see it in a different light with my business because it's had to change. And I hope that each one of you have been able to get some pearls that he has shared with us and how it can help encourage and change the way your business is moving forward. I also wanted to extend a big thank you for our team, our production team here.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And just as a reminder, we do have a webinar that Dr. Helen is facilitating and hosting for us on September 29th. So check our website for that, for details and the time. And October 9th is our next chapter meeting right back here.
Woohoo.
Okay, virtual. So we'll see you online. Check on President's message is going to come out next week. And then we'll have an update about 2 weeks after that. Lori, you have a question?
No, just a reminder, Kate and I are here in the same after meeting to answer any questions that you may have.
Awesome. Speaker Academy people of interest. We got 2 people here that can share with you.
For those who haven't done it, I highly recommend it. The Speakers Academy is great. That's how I entered the chapter several years back. So.
Y'all have a great month.
Thank you, everybody.